I'm calling to order the Minnehaha County Election Review Committee. We have two individuals who aren't able to be here yet. They will be trying to reach us telephonically, so I ask Robert to call the roll.
Danielson?
Here.
Aarons? Ellison?
Here.
Hogsted?
Here.
Pearson?
Here.
Rouse?
Here.
Warren?
I wanted to make a note to the attendees that there's agenda packets outside the door, and also a note to the public that if we have an opportunity for public comment at the beginning of the meeting, you may bring up any issue during this period. We ask if you're addressing a specific item on the agenda, please wait until that item is up for public comment. When addressing the Election Review Committee, please step to the podium and state your name for the record. The Minnehaha County Commission, Auditor Bob Litz, and South Dakota Secretary of State Chantel Krebs have each appointed a member to this committee to identify, review, and help with solutions to the issues surrounding our recent elections. This is our sixth and final meeting we are conducting to help the County Commission, the County Auditor, and the public with this review of the election process. In our previous meetings, we have covered election-related topics which could have affected the conduct and the process of our local elections. Today's meeting will center on the adoption of our final report based on both testimony before our committee and the lifelong knowledge and experience of the members of this panel. Thank you for attending and participating. And now I ask for an approval of today's agenda. All in favor say aye.
You need a motion, don't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda for today's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's passed. Then I ask, is there a motion for approval of the minutes from our last meeting?
Just,
It's on,
okay. In these minutes is included verbatim the chairman's document that he handed us last time. Is it typical for us to include a full report like that? Or do we include a summary of such a report?
I would think a summary would be, because we summarize our other items.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, darling.
Thanks. Here's your guys' original.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Sue, did you get a result?
I didn't get any, just
Are you talking the February 20th minutes?
yes.
the February 20th minutes, and in the middle, after item 7 starts, I guess it's toward the bottom of page 1, 2, 3. At the very least, if this is going to be in here, it should be clearly marked as being from the chairman. It isn't easy to see reading through the minutes that is a verbatim report attributed to one member. If it could be indented or quotes at the beginning of each paragraph or italics or something, because you just flip through the report and it looks like it's part of the minutes.
It's not consistent with the rest, so I suggest it be removed. Otherwise, you have to go back and add all the comments in from everybody for all the meeting minutes.
Perhaps these acceptance of these minutes should be deferred, and the two of you can consult on how best to put in a synthesis of of
I
what
agree.
your report was.
I agree.
So it's similar with the rest of the comments.
I assume
Yeah.
we will have final minutes of this meeting to approve as well. We could get these. There was one other thing, I believe Sitel on the first page, I think that's SCYTL, Sitel, the servicing company that does the programming and so on.
And you're not the only committee member that raised that question.
Okay.
And what I was going off of, and I did make a correction from my initial draft that went out, but the current spelling of that is from the business card I received from,
Oh.
is it Brian Mortimer, I
Brian
believe?
Mortimer, okay.
So that is the spelling
Okay.
from the business card.
That's the old Hart.
Yeah,
Yeah. SAYTL. Sadel,
that's not,
how
yeah,
he pronounced it?
interesting.
I thought when I remember he spelled it while he was here, and it would seem like there was this, yeah. Okay. That's his
I
card,
mean,
huh?
I think it's,
Is it
no, it's
SC?
SC. It's SC.
And I,
SCYTL.
It looks like it could be an A, but it's C, yeah.
we'll make that change.
Yeah, it's on here 3 times. I would move we defer approval of the February 20th minutes so that Bruce and Robert can review them and summarize the gist of your report.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Signify by aye. Thank you. Now we move on to the opportunity for public comment. This is a time set aside for public comment not related to any specific item. If you're addressing the specific item on the agenda, if you could please wait until that moment for the public comment. And when addressing the Election Review Board, if you could step to the podium and state your name for the record.
Hello, good morning. My name is Melvin Vandentop, and I'm a resident of Sioux Falls. I wanted to bring to your attention the concern about the hackable computerized systems that you make use of in counting the votes. A constitution guarantees a right to a fair and full count of the vote. With our fascination with the tyranny of the fast, as epitomized by Nike T-shirts that say "Speed wins," I think we all should step back and take another look at what is happening to our election process. You all are more familiar with the exact problems that you've encountered during the last election than I am, but if you allow yourself to be rushed along with the mistaken belief that things have to be fast and they have to be immediate, and you have to be able to know very quickly what the count is, then you are being duped and led into a misconception, which is probably the death of the republic. We've seen the increasing amount of tyranny that's coming down from the federal government, and even the state government has deemed to be a failure in terms of accountability to the people. It has an F on a report of the 49th out of the 50th state in this state legislates accountability, and executive accountability is one of the big things. So you have a very important job today. Benjamin Franklin, you probably have all heard the story about Benjamin Franklin coming out of what became known as Constitutional Hall and asked by a woman, "Sir, what kind of a government did you give us?" "Ma'am, we have given you a republic if you can keep it." Now, if you allow yourselves to be swindled by the belief that a computerized count of the vote is the same as one by one, ballot by ballot, precinct by precinct count, then we are losing our republic today. This is the last chance we have to save this republic, is the count and the integrity of the vote. It's fast going away in the national level. It is going away in the city level because we are now under the domination of a financial empire in the city. And if you do not put your foot down and say, over my dead body, is this going to happen? Then this is the end of our republic, and you only have your memories of what it was like in earlier days.
Thank you, Melvin.
Good morning. I'm Teresa Staley. I've been a 30-year resident of Sioux Falls, and I have been an active participant in all of the elections through these 30 years. Before I get into the body of my statement, I wanted to just say the unsung heroes of any election are those workers. I didn't appreciate what they do until I actually personally was involved with that. These people, these men and women sit there for hours, patiently helping to aid us in our right to vote. They go ahead of time, they come to election school, they go to set the voting center up the night before. And without these people, none of this would happen. So God bless them. I'm so grateful for each one of them. I became concerned, well, I've been a voter, as I said, and up until 2007, I always had a stable place to vote. It was always there, whatever election it would be, we voted at the same place. And then in 2007, it was when we had the combined city school board election for the Drake Springs issue, the talk came up about the super precincts. And I was involved with that particular ballot issue. But I became kind of concerned because they were shifting around where we were going to be voting. And it came down to money. It was about saving money at the expense of a voting experience. Since then, I have observed and experienced the decay of our system. And as I talk with people all over the city, and I've talked with thousands of people through the years, everyone feels the same way about this. We have endured voting centers. We have endured super precincts. We have gone back to the traditional voting centers or voting sites. It is called a goose chase. It's musical chairs. We don't know where we're going next. I've experienced it personally where I go to where I voted the last time and it's either closed or there's no signs on the window, or they say, we don't have your name on our book, go somewhere else. And people are driving all over town being turned away. And what happens as a result of this? They just give up. This isn't what we need to be doing as a city. We need to be encouraging people to participate. I'm very passionate about this. I have actually been a superintendent several times in a voting center, and I was there for the presidential election. I mean, we had people come into St. Mark's Lutheran who had voted there for years, and their names weren't in the book. Well, I had to call down here and say, oh, they're over at Edison Middle School or Center for Active Generations, places they'd never been before. This is not acceptable in an excellent community like Sioux Falls. We are so progressive in other things, and then when it comes to providing this for our citizens, we're just falling short. And I really think it comes back to money. It comes back to money. We've got plenty of money for all sorts of other things, but when it comes to this issue, we're falling short. Several things that I think we can do to fix this. First of all, we need to set a consistent voting center for each person. It needs to be respected. No more shifting around. And I'll tell you something, I've done several petition drives, and I have thought about this. I would be willing to put my time, money, and energy into bringing this to the citizens and saying, what do you think about our voting situation as it is? What would you like to see done? I think if we set in concrete, this is where you vote, and then let's say it changes. Like I understand Horace Mann, some of the schools now do not want to be having elections there. So if I've been going there and that's changing, I deserve to have a postcard sent to me that says this is where you will go now. Do not rely on the media, and God bless all of you here today. But if we're relying on you to get the information to our 160,000 plus citizens, it's fallen short. We've got a very disconnected society right now. So we need to have a mailing. We deserve to have that. I think the other thing we need to look at doing is consolidating these elections. At the minimum, why can't we put the school board and the city elections together? We are experiencing voter fatigue here in our city. We have record low turnout. And it's because we've got a school board here, we've got the city here, we've got the federal here. Why can't we combine some of these? I know we have to work together, but I think that that would be the best thing for our citizens. It's about what's best for our people. So I just needed to express my feelings about this. I'm hoping we can allocate more money and energy to support and encourage our citizens to participate in this very precious right that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Does anybody else have any comments for the committee? That being the case, we'll move on to our only agenda item today is the adoption of the final committee report. And
I would just ask if you want me to try one more time at this point to connect Kia Warren,
that would be good.
my phone.
I'm going to try to get a hold of it all.
Only at page 1 and 3. Did you have it two-sided?
Yes, Keith was two-sided.
Julie's is
I
here.
think there were quite a few that were.
Did we do two-sided?
Yeah, they weren't copied two-sided, so we're,
Okay, so most of those I have
most of them
here.
are,
This one's two-sided from you, Sue.
Oh.
Yeah, might
This is Kia, leave your message.
be easier just to read.
Have the
I think redo it.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna take this one back from you and these back from Julie.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah, they're duplexed.
not too many of them were single-sided.
No, our printers automatically duplex everything now, so.
We weren't able to get a hold of the two other participants in our
Get rid of
committee,
these.
and we're getting some paperwork straightened out up here. And in the meantime, should we start
Those.
Yeah.
with the process?
That's,
I-
those
Yeah.
didn't get copied two-sided, so she's redoing them. The one you got there. I
So,
think one thing that would be helpful as a start would be just to review the call that the charge that we were given.
Yes.
Because, and that is the beginning of the report, and I think it kind of helps us focus on what we're here for. And we can start going through the report, because it's when we get to the recommendations
Right.
that we have the issues. Did Kia's name get corrected as she'd requested? I
it would,
don't
final
believe it did.
is right here in the, Robert has it on the screens for us.
Oh, okay.
And so what Robert is planning to do is go through the computer as we're going along, and then we'll be able to make changes as we go. And the most current changes that Kia sent, because she wasn't going to be here, were done in the red type,
Okay.
and then they'll be adopted when they're done as the changes are made. If So we wanted to make sure Kia's comments were added into our process.
Now, there is, in this draft report, there is some wording, verbiage in there under the executive summary section. That is not an executive summary. I would suggest that we delegate that responsibility to Robert. He knows how to write executive summaries, and you do the report first, and then you do a summary.
Those were notes put in for us, and I had planned on taking those out. I just wanted to make sure they were covered, and so take that as,
Take those out.
yes.
Yeah, take out the wording that's in there now.
Yes, that was just to make sure we covered those, and I'm, Does anybody want to just go ahead and read each section, or how do you want to go through, or do you want to move down through it?
Where do we have, oh, here's the purpose of the committee.
Are we looking at the March 6, 2015 paper copy draft?
That's what we have.
Okay.
But there's been corrections that have been made on there.
Well, I can't read either one of those.
Does that get any better?
You'll be able to see it's just the red that's on there that are changes from what we have on paper. Is that correct?
Otherwise, it is the exact same thing that you have in a paper copy.
Okay.
That's the only difference.
Okay, so on that first, under Kia Warren, you've changed her title.
Yeah, that's been
Okay.
fixed.
All right, which is on,
It's on page 4 on our paper copy. And on page 4 is also the charge to the committee. I think that's accurate as written. The items we were charged with looking at were timeliness of vote tabulation, performance of the new vote counting machines, and the process for delivering absentee ballots to voters and ensuring absentee voters receive correct ballots. So those are the 3 items that really we were asked to consider. Okay.
are you saying that that's only what should be in the report?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I had sent a suggestion that we organize our recommendations into categories to respond to those items, and then things that don't fall in those categories that we feel are important to have in the report.
Afterwards.
That we list afterwards.
Okay.
But
I
I think that will be helpful to organize these recommendations. Right now, it's just a laundry list.
Right.
So,
So shall we just say page 4 is okay with the change and crossing out the executive summary? And then we move on to page 5.
Do Joel and Deborah get a title, or they just nobodies, or?
Minnehaha County resident is fine.
Huh?
Minnehaha County resident is fine for me.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna put titles for the other people,
And I expected Robert would mark that up later. I don't have a problem.
and Joel, he's a,
I think he's Lincoln County, isn't he?
I don't know
We'll
where
have
he's
to
a
find out.
resident. He does have a lot of experience in litigation of election issues
he's an attorney.
as an attorney.
And I would assume you should put that behind my name then also, Robert.
Yeah, because Bruce doesn't have any title or description there.
And if you could put Minnehaha County resident behind my name, that would be. So, okay. So then we'll move on to page 5.
And you'll add today's public testimony,
Yes.
but beyond that.
And then we'll move on to page 6. And who'd like to lead off on?
Could we go back to 5?
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
as far as the people speaking, since we're just saying, what they're saying, I think under Rebecca Dunn, we should just keep the first sentence only and delete, she thanked the committee for its work, because we're just stating what their main purpose was, that they came and spoke.
Their concern, I would agree.
Yeah.
That's good.
Otherwise, we should put something for everyone. That's the only change I had there, other than adding the people from today.
Could we add the date of the most recent city election? Do you remember when that was? If
Yep,
we-
that's
April 8th.
April 8th, 2014.
Yeah, good.
Then we'll move on to page 6.
The,
Yes,
I mean-
Julie.
The one correction I'd make throughout the recommendations for the Minnehaha County Auditor is that you use Minnehaha County Auditor, not Minnehaha County Auditor's Office, which is, it's not consistent. Also, when, I have a question for the committee, when it says we recommend throughout these reports, were those followed by motions? Are those supported by motions?
I think that's what we need to
That's-
discuss
that's
today,
Yeah.
Why not?
because we have not agreed to many of these.
Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of the wording, and that was my question. There's some,
So can we
And
start
it-
on one, and your suggestion would be to strike the word office out of number one, correct?
yeah,
Among other things.
I think what Robert and I had discussed yesterday, based on some of the email responses, was we were just going to go down through each one of these individually, vote on each one, strike it, rewrite it, whatever it takes, and then vote on it, and then move forward to the next one.
okay.
And then I would assume then we'd organize it accordingly based on where they fall.
Yeah, I think organization would come at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it, just go
And
right down the
possibly we
list.
decide at this point where each one of these fits under one of those charges, or we just take it at the end and,
Let's do that all at the end.
Okay.
That allows us to just go right down the list and focus.
I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
So should I read each one as I go, or everybody here have a copy and
Does
it's
the
in front of
audience
us?
have copies? Because there are copies right there for anybody who would like one, right on the corner of
Right
the
on
table
there.
here. Looks like there's ample for everybody in the room. So I don't think you need to read them because everybody will have one.
So, let's talk about number one. We've already struck the apostrophe S office out of there. And where does, any comments on number one?
I move that number one be adopted as amended.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pass. Number two,
Question.
Yes.
Are we going to arrange the report between our charge and not our charge after?
I think,
Okay.
yeah, because once we get them all,
Then we can decide
then we
where they
can
go in
just
the
put
report.
them in the. yeah.
Okay.
so number two,
2 and 3 kind of go together. And I know there was
They
some,
do.
there was some comment, because they both pertain to where it is, and you had some,
I commented about not somehow tying the auditor into a space that we
Micromanaging.
might necessarily want as a recommendation. That was my concern in my first set of comments. Bruce has explained to me the truth and beauty now of the hallway, and I see his point of why that would in fact be a good place to expand. So I don't really have strong feelings one way or the other
Should we-
about this particular language.
Do you want it more generic that we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor secure more physical space for the entire in-house election process, which would include absentee balloting, supply delivery?
there's something covering that later.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's two that were,
There's 2 in there, but
That's fleshed out more in the section that's referred to as commission.
number 12.
Yep.
So really they're repetition of each other, one just has a little bit more.
can we ask
And-
the auditor what his?
I believe that was following Julie's original recommendation that there be a section for the auditor and a section for the commission.
But I think we're gonna change that around.
But that is,
Since we only have one recommendation for the commission, I think it's going to be easy to clarify who each one is. I think your idea was have each recommendation addressed to somebody, not necessarily to rearrange them based on this section's for the auditor, this section's for the commission, et cetera. Or am I misreading?
Yes, for recommendations. Part of the recommendation to the county commissioner is that they're going to have to also provide the funding for the sufficient staff, if that's an issue, if it's an issue for the DS 850 purchase.
So we'll get to that. What is
So
have- we
are you
have-
saying then that we should have strike 2 and 3? Or
I'd like-
just say 12 is ditto of 2 and 3?
I'd like to hear what Bob's response is to these two first.
Okay.
I just wanted to get up so you didn't have to wait for Scooter Boy Bob Litz from the auditor's office. And, I agree that 2 and 3 are kind of tied together, and the reason that they are tied together, and I would seriously consider this, was also tied to 4, that if I get another DS 850, that's going to necessitate that, as well as the addition of resolution boards. And so those 2 items make the other 2 necessary, is the way I tend to view it. And those thoughts certainly had gone through my mind during the last election.
Do you think this is a workable solution currently to use that hallway?
Sue, the truth is we already use it for storing boxes and movements and going in and out of the safe. One thing that I did worry about that came to my mind with my background in the building industry was, of course, fire egress. But as I look down the street here at the Secretary or the State's Attorney's office, they've got it blocked off, and I do believe some temporary signage that would say blocked off except with the event of fire egress, or something to that effect. We could do that, maybe just put some ropes across there to kind of keep people from going through there later at night. And to be honest, the only people that are down there later at night are folks that are involved with the election anyway. So I think that's kind of a moot issue, But we could certainly put some signage up that would tell people to stay away. It's a secured area. And honestly, we get that machine and the resolution boards. I'd like to have the resolution boards looking at the machines, or within clear sight of that. And so I think we have to look that space over that we've got down there, include the hallway with the additional resolution boards, and just kind of assess it. So I think Julie's idea, kind of putting it in there generic, and we'll work out the details on it later on. Because to be honest with you, I haven't given it a lot of thought at this point. I've got some loose ideas, but of course we'd put kind of a team together in the auditor's office and figure that flow out.
Well, I'm all for not micromanaging your office and what you do down there, so if we stay more generic in suggesting the idea.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good idea. Give me a little flexibility for going forward.
So we could kind of just duplicate 12, couldn't we?
Well, I think 2 is important because to me, that was a new thought. And I think it would help to have this committee endorse that, yes, we believe it's a good idea to expand, to use that north hallway. The number 3, which does get a lot more into specifics, I think perhaps we should take out, because if our point is they need more room. And that, if the only room we have available is that north hallway,
That's acceptable.
the commission should agree that, yes, that is the best use for that space, and endorse closing it off for other uses on that day.
I'm good with that. So do we accept
2 as written.
at
2
2
is
as
written?
written?
Or do we add the commission to that?
Since we only have 1?
Yeah, I think that's something that the commission has to agree to. Because
it's
it's
their
a building
building.
use issue.
Then we can just strike that whole thing in.
So right after Minnehaha County Auditor, will you add
And commission.
And county commission?
In 2, that's the way I'd do it. I would specifically include that one.
And then strike 12 on page 7.
Strike it when we get there.
Strike 3 for sure.
Well, 12 is actually saying the same thing as we are in 2, and we're moving the commission section up, or you want it separate also?
Actually, it's not, because absentee processing is a different issue, and a critical one as well, and that's not done in that first floor hallway, that's done up here. And we heard concerns that they might be changing the layout up here and taking away some of that space. And
Okay,
that
you're
would be
right.
a critical mistake.
Okay, so we add and commission? MC
On 2.
commission on 2 after auditor?
I put in here and county commission.
Yeah.
Hi, Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. You're on speakerphone. We're working through the recommendations, and you are joining the meeting.
All right, thank you.
I would make a motion that we accept recommendation 2, adding the words "and county commission" after Minnehaha County Auditor, and that we strike recommendation 3.
Bob Litz has a
Could we get
question.
a second and then bring it up for discussion?
Yeah,
Okay.
get a second first.
I got a second. Okay, I'd like to point out that in the multi-purpose room down there, I've asked for that space a couple of times, but due to, workspace concerns in here, it's never really officially been given to me. And, we had the 3rd floor to store the auto marks in for a while. I got moved out of there doing an expansion. We had them over at the Multicultural Center. We had to bring them back over. And after the last election, I just sort of parked stuff over there and commandeered the room, and it's officially not mine. So if we could include that in my recommendations, that I get that multi-purpose room for the express purpose of elections, that would be very, very helpful.
How should we phrase that?
Well, we could change it to say, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor and County Commission consider securing the north first floor hallway and multipurpose room of the administration building.
But do you want it just to say for related activities on election days? This would be not just on election days, right?
I'd like to keep the
Storage?
multi-purpose room, period. And then
Yeah.
I
Oh,
would like to do the
then-
hallway on a temporary basis.
Okay, then maybe we need a different recommendation in place of what is now 3.
Yeah, strike
Yeah.
3 and
Just have your motion pertain to number 2 for right now.
Yeah, okay, can we change, is that agreeable to you?
Yes.
So the motion then would just be to approve 2, adding the words "and county commission."
do we have all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Oh,
Well,
you have to do.
Because we now have
We now have a
Kia
substitute
on
motion.
the, telephonically, we have the list of, we'll have to read the list of,
Roll call.
yes?
Can I ask what page number you guys are on?
Ah,
6.
6? Okay, thanks.
We're voting on number 2 on page 6, Kia.
Okay, thank you.
With an amendment.
With the amendment added, on the first line, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor and County Commission consider.
If
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
you may want to explain to Kia what the process that we're going to go through so it makes sense to her.
We're going through, Kia, just bring you up to speed. We're going through each one of the recommendations, and we are voting on each one individually. And then after the process of voting on each one of the recommendations, we're going to decide where to put it in the final draft of the report.
Okay, do you guys have my comments and everything too in there, or no?
Yes.
Okay,
We're reading your comments on the screen in front of us as we go along, and everybody else has their
Yeah,
comments.
hers are more later. Well,
okay.
So we'll be trying to include yours in as we go.
We did get a paper copy of all the comments that had been made, a package, and I believe a email was sent to you, Kia, with copies of all of those. So we'll be working through trying to incorporate those as we approve each recommendation. Does that
You
make sense?
said a new package was sent to me, or a new,
Email, yeah, with a copy of all the suggestions, word changings, whatever you
think we
want
did.
for all of them, yes. From the,
Darlene, it's
Oh,
from Darlene.
Oh, okay.
from Darlene and Bob's office.
I see it.
Okay,
Good.
and we did change your title.
Thanks.
And we approved number 1, removing the word office. So it's just to the county auditor. And now we're on number 2.
And we're currently voting on number 2.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys.
Danielson,
Yes.
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yeah.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
That one passed. We'll move on to number 3, and we had a discussion about rewriting number 3.
I have some suggested wording for 3. We recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor and County Commission consider utilizing the multi-purpose room for permanent election storage. We can maybe add to that.
Do you want to use it for Election Day activities also?
I would think that perhaps the wordage of express use for elections would cover both the storage aspect of
For
it and then the
express
use
use.
aspect of it.
Express
the
use of
election day.
elections.
For elections.
Can you reread that then?
Sure. We recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor and County Commission consider utilizing the multi-purpose room for express use for elections.
How about designating instead of utilizing?
Designating.
Designating the multipurpose room for express use of elections. I think that does it.
Yeah, that sounds good. Does that sound
Does
good,
does
Bob?
that mean full-time?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that.
Designate, not
Designate,
designating.
singular, yeah. Designate the multipurpose room for express use of elections. Does that sound right, or should it be?
For storage and elections?
For elections.
For
For
elections.
elections instead of.
Oh, okay.
And leave it
For
to the,
elections would cover the storage. part.
yeah, it would,
Yeah.
Is the word jogging there a typo?
No.
it's been taken out.
Okay.
What it is, it's shaking the ballots to make sure they'll,
They have a
They
machine
don't
down
stick
there called a
together.
jogger.
Okay, okay,
But that won't be part of the wording anyway.
Anyway, yep.
okay.
so you made that motion?
Yes.
And I seconded it.
Julie second.
We'll take the roll.
Danielson,
Yes?
Aaron's, Ellison.
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
That passes. Now we'll move on to number 4.
On number 4, can I ask Bob, have you decided to buy another scanner? And at what point did you, if you have made that decision, did you make it based on our committee recommendations, or had you already decided you needed one?
I have decided that I'd like to approach the commission for permission to get another one, and I'd be delighted if you'd endorse that recommendation.
Okay. That's how I would like this to read, not that, the idea is not coming from us. I think
Right.
we need to endorse Bob's decision to purchase another scanner.
So we could put, we endorse the Minnehaha County Auditor.
Really good.
I had written it out.
Yeah, you had written it out. It was, I liked what you wrote.
Oh, what I wrote was, we concur with Auditor Litz that one more DS-850 ballot scanner should be purchased. It's not our recommendation. Either that, or we concur, or we endorse,
Oh, I like, yeah.
just the way I had it. We concur with Auditor Litz that one more DS-850 ballot scanner should be purchased.
It's right here, Julie, right?
I think that expresses it adequately. Thank you.
Scanner should be purchased.
Are you purchasing that with HAVA funds, or does that need funding from the county commission?
This one I intend to purchase with the HAVA funds.
Okay. Was that a motion that you were?
Yeah, I make a motion that number 4 be changed to read this way.
I'll second.
Once Robert is ready, we'll,
Danielson,
yes?
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Then we'll move on to number 5.
when we get to 5, 6, 7, and 11, that's the one that I had a comment that I believe those were all recommendations that had been made by ES&S, the vendor, and that Bob has said he intends to incorporate. Now I'd like to double check that my memory is correct. Number 5 is put a fold here marking.
Yeah, it's possible for me to order pre-folded ballots, and I think that's important because depending on the ballot
Oh,
size.
pre-folded.
Pre-folded, and I thought that might be, now I don't know about a watermark on there, knowing what I know about watermarks, but the lines on there would be helpful, but I think the pre-folded absentee ballots would even work better.
My question on that was, what percentage of the ballots would you have to purchase
That's
for
micromanaging.
each one of the precincts that you said you had all these different styles that you had to work with, and how many extra ballots would you have to order with that versus having fold here marks on them?
Well, Chairman Danielson, I wouldn't be ordering extra ballots. What I would do is order a percentage of those ballots to already have the folds on them. And they would also work out in the regular precinct should I have ordered too many folded ones. I don't think it's an issue. It's an allocation thing, and we would figure that out and try to dial it in as close as we can.
You may want to look at buying a folding machine, which is what we do in Pennington. I mean, there's other things we fold in the county also, but then you don't have to make that predetermination because you'll always short yourself or you're always long. You'll never hit it right on in any precinct, and then you can just have them in the office and be ready to fold when you need them.
Could you use a folding machine in somewhere else in the office for any other purposes?
You fold your checks?
I guess that's a possibility, and I'd sure like to look into that. Thank you.
Because they charge you to fold them.
Yes, they do.
Without, go ahead, Kia.
Okay, with this, are we at number 6 we're talking about?
5.
We're in number 5 right now.
5, okay, yep, thanks.
So without micromanaging, again, in your office, what would you like us to be able to help you with on this?
Well, something along the lines of the words of, that the auditor get pre-folded ballots and investigate the potential of purchasing a folding machine. Is that something along those lines?
We recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor
Pre-fold absentee ballots and investigate the possibility of purchasing a
There you go.
folding
To
machine.
implement that, you bet. There.
Yep.
Pre-fold. You got that, Robert?
Pre-fold absentee ballots and investigate.
And consider
Purchasing.
purchase of a folding machine. Because if you have one that works, they
Oh,
ought to-
yeah.
they ought to be able to look at
that's
that.
a great idea.
And anybody in the county that needs a folding machine uses it.
Purchase of a folding machine. Yep, that.
Yep. Is that your motion,
That would-
Sue? Or mine? I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
As soon as Robert is ready, we will call the roll.
Did you hear that, Kia?
Yes,
Okay.
Does that look like what everybody understands?
Mm-hmm. Consider purchase of a folding machine, yeah.
Danielson,
Yes.
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes,
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Here, yes.
Warren.
Warren, sorry,
Thank you, Kia.
yep.
We'll move on to number 6.
Kia, I have a question on, or maybe someone else can answer it. I didn't look it up. Isn't there already a time deadline when the parties have to submit a list of people for resolutions and/or precinct boards? No? Do we have to take their list?
Because I know they changed some of the, I think they might have changed that one. Let me just look real quick, if you don't mind holding.
I did look that up too,
Okay.
because I questioned, and I didn't find any indication in law that you're required to request that representation from the parties. All it says is that you use people from the opposing parties, and it's not specified like it is for precincts.
Okay.
I think we've always done it as a courtesy to the parties, is ask them to provide representatives, but I couldn't find anything in statute that required the auditor to ever ask the parties at all. They could just pick random people from the political parties if they wanted.
So we could then strike that latter part and just say, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor have extra resolution team members available if needed for, if needed.
Yeah.
Needed, yeah, period.
Do you need in there, Bob, that we suggested one per scanner? Or do you already do that?
You need a lot more, don't you?
I had, you said you had 10 to 12, and that was.
I called them in, but to begin with, I only start with one per scanner. Do you want it more specific than it is, or just leave it as?
I think I'd like to have that flexibility, looking at the up and down nature of the
Okay.
elections,
So that would just, my motion would be just to stop after if needed and delete the rest.
I'd second that, but can we ask Kia if she's found anything more?
You guys, my numbers that on my report that I'm looking at are different than what you guys are talking about right now.
Okay, what the motion is we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor have extra resolution team members available if needed.
And so that you're on number 8.
No, we're on
Yeah.
6 on the March 6th, 2015 report.
That's the date mine says.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't say which day they were printed or which file they came out of.
Are you
So-
looking at a PDF file or a Word document, Kia?
I printed the Word document, the one we got from Bruce the other day.
Yesterday, there was, the last one went out.
Sometimes Word can change formatting, and I wonder if it's possible it changed the numbering of this numbered list.
Actually, if you're marking yours up at all as it goes, Kia, it might be changing some of the numbering on yours, so it could be shifting things down.
So I just need to look at the PDF.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was a PDF I sent out from I believe it was called number 8.
Did you
The-
send that out yesterday, Robert?
Yeah, March
It
5th.
would have gone out from me yesterday afternoon.
It is 8.
Try and find that.
I've got
I'm on the right.
the Word document. You do have the Word document. That's the one I made corrections on, Kia, and it is number 8 on page 7.
Oh,
So I
With all
think
the
maybe if
markups.
you print the PDF,
Mine is number 8 on page 6, so I'm way off here.
oh, yeah.
Sorry, guys. Robert, can you send me the PDF real quick? I see your minutes that you sent yesterday afternoon.
it's Bruce's email that he sent yesterday afternoon.
And Darlene just sent out a copy to you
In Word document.
as a Word document.
Is that what this one
Here,
is?
I can forward it. I've got this open right now.
I see Darlene just sent it here. Just a second, I'll open that one up and go by that one.
Is that the PDF?
This is a Word document that she sent me.
Let me forward, because I just checked it.
Okay.
Let's see if I can do that.
For all in attendance and viewing,
I don't know.
we've
that I
made
can.
quite a few changes over the last few days, so it's kind of hard to keep up with all of the updates. So Bob has a
I don't have
comment. if-
authority to send stuff.
I do, and it's related to this, and, I have been operating under the premise that when I get a resolution board, those people I don't believe are allowed to be paid or remunerated for what they do. And unless there's a good ethical reason for that, I fail to see why they're unlike any other election worker. And if both of them are paid, the Republican and the Democrat, it would be the same as if I had judges out in a precinct. We rode the resolution board's hard last time, and it was a lot of work, and I really felt bad that they were not at least paid something for their efforts. Maybe one of you can correct me, but I believe
Julie's
I can't
fault.
pay them.
Is it in law?
No, but when we started using this system, I came out to observe how you did it. You told me at that time that you didn't pay the resolution boards because they were representing the party, and you wanted to make it clear they were not under your direction. They were there representing the parties. So that's the rationale.
But there's nothing in statute that says you cannot pay them.
That'd be nice. My thoughts are, is we're paying them both, where's the conflict? If I only paid one of them, I mean, I still think they operate independently, get to do what they're charged with, and boy, I'd sure like to
How do you
put that
do it?
in my budget.
We pay them. We've
Okay.
paid them for the last 3 or 4 years.
Well then,
Thank you.
there you go.
Yeah.
If we could put that in as a recommendation when I try to do my budget here, figure my budget out a little bit, that would, well, I don't know if I need to. So
No.
I'll just handle that as a budget item when I come up with a commission.
I did also pay ours for our city election, but ours is a little different. We don't need party representation as does the county's elections, but I did pay ours.
Okay, good.
Sorry, Deb.
So I apologize,
Bruce.
Bob. You send them an apology note from me, would you?
Very good.
And a check.
That-
No.
That'd be the apology needed, so.
Retro pay.
Yeah.
So, we're still on number
still discussing.
6.
I made it as a motion. Did I get a second?
I would second it if there wasn't one. I don't know if there was.
I was waiting for Robert to come back with
I think we're
to
waiting
do the
on
roll.
Kia to get the right version. That's where we were at.
Kia?
Might be looking.
And I had just tried to save this, because this one's on this desktop, save it, close it down, and then go from my desk computer, pull it up and send it off, reflecting these changes in it.
I just found Bruce's email with the PDF, so I opened that.
Okay.
So the one that you guys are talking about is number 6.
6, okay.
Members.
Yes.
Now
Okay.
she's got it.
That's it going.
Okay, and my motion was, Kia, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor have extra resolution team members available if needed.
Okay.
Can I ask, at this point, is your intention to continue to ask the parties?
We have
The
2 questions
resolution,
going.
Is the county auditor required to let the county or the parties know who those members are? Is that your question?
Yeah, there's no requirement to wait for a list from the parties on a resolution team. We're not recalling,
We're not finding anything.
we're not finding it, Kia, so,
Okay, I know, there is,
on the precinct boards.
there is a requirement to send the proposed list of employees that are gonna run the tabulating machines.
Yes,
To make sure there's equal party representation, but I'm not saying anything on the resolution board.
yes.
So we'll move on to, Deb had a question for Bob.
Would it be your expectation to continue to ask the parties?
I'd certainly like to, but I'd like to maybe put out a timeline. If it's not done within 10 or 14 days or something like that, then I get to pick my own folks.
I think that's reasonable, and you shouldn't be forced to wait because the parties don't respond.
Last
to you.
time,
Yeah.
it got turned in the day before or 2 days
Yes.
before, and that's another stress. And if I got to call a bunch of people, I'd like a little bit of time to do it. Typically, what happens just before the election is I've got all my precinct people in there, but a lot of them have medical issues and things happen, when you get to be an older age, and so I'm busy replacing folks. And, to have that resolution board by somebody else would really be nice, but, or at least have the time in order for me to
And
ask
that was
folks.
my intention with this harsh language on the bottom.
Do you want to leave it in?
I'm comfortable with Bob's answer.
Okay.
So we'll leave it as it's been changed?
It's my motion.
Do I call for a
And
motion?
Deb's happy.
We have a motion.
Oh,
Danielson,
yes?
Aaron's, Ellison?
Yes.
Hogsted?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Rouse?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
We'll move on to number 7. Now, this came up in the question that was about
Overvotes.
overvotes and what was actually required. So as administrative rules changed, just making sure that we don't count the ballots for the hesitation marks, et cetera.
The point was overvotes.
Yes.
You can set a tabulator to outsort overvotes, but we don't want to do that because if it's an overvote, it's an overvote. There's nothing the resolution board can do about it. Even if it's a hesitation mark, according to state administrative rule, that is a vote. And so there's nothing you can do about it anyway. And I'm just trying to look, Kia, do you know where the specific instruction is? I know there's one in there that you only sort for blanks.
Yes, because we found it that day.
It's
in
in
rule.
rule, and I'm not finding it right at the moment.
Was that true with the 650s as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. So on the 650s, we always had it set to sort blanks. The question has come up about, and I thought it was Kia that asked it about indeterminate marks. That the machine does kick out, no matter how you set the sorts, because it wants you to review. And if there's a mark that's too light that it's not quite sure of, it can stop for that. But we're talking about the specific sorts that you can choose.
As part of the setting up or programming
part
the
of the
scanner. It's really
setting.
setting up the outsort bin.
Yes. And, you know, just as an anecdotal thing that, you know, election night, we did figure that out. And we knew that doing the overvotes would be a zero-sum game, whether the machine didn't count them or we ran them through a resolution board and they left it blank and ran it back through. It's a zero-sum game. But that was later in the evening when we started discussing it, and we were afraid of changing horses in the middle of the stream, unsure about the rules, the legality of it, and we didn't want to get caught up in any controversy. So we thought that any more ballots that would be kicked out by overvote at that point, you know, we just have to take our lumps on
I
it.
have a
We
question.
were erring to the side of caution is the way I'd characterize our thought process that night.
I have a question. In case of a recount, could some of those be pulled back in because of voter intent? I'm thinking of, I've seen ballots where some of them will mark the same race and then say, not this one. The intent of the voter on those is very clear.
Those get kicked out and the resolution board would correct those. And those, the corrected ballots would be the ones that we run back through for a recount. And we would also have the originals there in case that board, well, the recount board would like to look at them.
You know, that's kind of a gray area.
Yeah.
In a recount, all ballots are looked at individually, so you'd see those things. But the administrative rule is still clear. If somebody marked, put in a mark that touched an oval or was inside the oval, it's a vote.
But there's also the language about voter intent.
But let me,
Yeah.
to finish that, the way we used to do it anyway is the recount board still was responsible for strictly following the administrative rule, the rules about counting votes. We always felt that it was a court that could determine that they could go,
Okay.
that they could differ from what the rules said, but that a recount board is really,
Okay.
the rules are there, and they're very black and white.
I think Kia made the comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kia, that she wanted to review or have the new Secretary of State review the wording on that indeterminate mark or the wording in the rule that has something to do with those types of marks. But under existing statute, I don't see that we can change anything other than if it's changed, and our recommendation would still stand then, in accordance with South Dakota administrative rule, and we can add and state statute, and then no matter how they change it, you're programming it that way.
And
But I can see your reason why you did not change in the middle of the election, especially based off of your state's attorney's opinion on poll books and paper poll books that,
You know, also, if I remember right, election night, what popped up on the screen didn't necessarily match the 5 or 6 criteria for, for the resolution board to go through. And I think they were the same things in a couple instances, but we might want to look at the wording of what pops up on the screen and maybe put that down on our instructions to the resolution board, because I think there was a little bit of variance, and we had to kind of figure that out as we went. But I'd like to have that clarified as we go along, too.
yes,
I think you, for the reference of what the outstack has to do as required, the statute is 1217B 13.1, that it only requires it to be set to outstack any ballot which appears to be blank or has any possible mark the machine cannot determine.
yes,
Actually,
That's
in
it.
state law.
Law, okay.
yep.
So maybe we should change that one in accordance with state law instead of
Take out
administrative
Administrative
rule.
Okay.
And maybe we should specify that state law.
Yep.
17, or 12-17B dash 13.1.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
State statute. Or you could just say SDCL.
Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of
it-
states, yeah.
Can you put in SDCL? (12-17B). No dash.
No period between.
Capital B dash 13.1. Yeah.
And then on that one, we'll also take out the apostrophe after auditor, and
Oh.
take
And
out
our
office, and
office.
then add an S to ensure, then. Ensures.
I'd move approval of number 7 as we have revised it.
A sec.
Kia, second.
Danielson,
Yes?
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes,
Pearson,
Yes,
Roust,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Move on to number 8. We recommend the auditor's office scan early.
I think we put
change that.
Minnehaha County,
Minnehaha
County
County
Auditor.
Auditor. Take out office.
And there's a second period at the end of it. Could come out.
and to follow the other recommendations, do we want to take out the word consider? We've taken consider out in the other ones. And make
Agreed.
it scan
Singular.
absentee ballots before polls close on election day.
Is it?
And then before auditor, add
your
Minnehaha
preference?
County, just for consistency.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay.
I still think that's a call that the auditor should make based on how busy the office is that day, how much staff he has available, what he can effectively manage and ensure that everything is done properly. Now, I know things are a little eased up now that that people in general cannot absentee vote on election day. But it used to be my decision not to do it before polls closed because I just didn't feel that I had enough staff to manage all of those aspects at the same time. That's why I like it to say consider scanning absentee ballots. That gives him more choice.
Robert, you have any thoughts on that?
I think I certainly would like to, and I've always had the option, but I've been reluctant to do it. I did bring it up to the commission last time as an idea, and it kind of went sideways in the press, and I saw comments about Litz is gonna, release those numbers early, and my thoughts were that's Associated Press's job to call an election before it happens. But yeah, I would definitely like to consider that, number one. And number two, in response to Sue's thing, is I'm gonna be reaching out. The auditor's office has a new employee, Kim Adamson, over here. She's agreed to be trained on the new 850s. Lori is also interested in some extensive training on the 850s. Bev Chase from the school is interested in some extensive training on the 850s. So I'm looking for more staff to run the absentee ballots, the machines, on election day. Because it's like it was noted in here, we had 1,991 phone calls to the office, and I need all hands on deck downstairs to answer those phone calls, and hopefully we're working on some of the things that'll diminish the number of those calls. But in the event that happens, I need to have additional staff who are trusted election personnel to be able to run those machines for the absentees that day. And it would also require me to probably, Sue, I saw that a lot of times you would start the absentee opening at 10 o'clock. Last year I moved it back to 9 o'clock and would consider 8 o'clock. And the reason that I would want to do that is to get those absentees available for running through the scanning machine a little bit earlier. So that's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and yes, I'd consider, I want to do that. I had a little trepidation about doing it last time due to some of the comments in the media.
Are you okay if it says, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor scan absentee ballots before polls close? Because if it's written that way, there will be an expectation that you will be doing it before polls close. Are you comfortable with us making it that strong?
We've got a school board election coming up that I don't plan on doing that. I don't think it's gonna be necessary. Matter of fact, we'll put 4 people in our office late in the afternoon, and they'll start going through those absentee ballots. So I'd like a little bit of flexibility in there to be doing that, because I don't see the point in this upcoming school election, knowing what I do about the turnouts of counting those absentees up front.
Or separately?
Or separately.
In a small election, you probably should not be counting absentees separately, because you have the potential to see how 1 or 2 people voted in a precinct if that's all that voted absentee.
True.
It's neither here nor there to me.
If you want the flexibility, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor consider scanning absentee ballots before polls close on election day in accordance with SDCL 12-1943 and provide adequate trained staff. Let's see.
I think we're making this one too hard.
Okay.
I think we should stop after the law.
Okay.
Either we
Leave it as it is.
leave it
Yeah.
as it was printed, or take out the consider scanning and just say, we recommend that he scan them.
I'd like,
He wants the flexibility,
I'd
I'd
so.
like consider in there, please.
So the
So-
original word.
So
The
back
original
to,
wording was consider scanning.
and
So all we need to do is add
Scanning.
Minnehaha County and take out office, and that would be my motion.
Second.
change the word back to scanning.
Scanning, yeah. instead of
Consider
scanning.
scanning. That's the way it was.
There we go.
Okay. 2 ends, 3 ends.
And you have a motion on the table now?
Yes,
Danielson,
yes.
Aaron's, Ellison.
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
It passed, and we'll move on to, Kia.
No.
She must have stepped away again.
Testify.
No, I'm
Yep.
there.
Oh.
I'm here.
And your vote, aye or nay?
Yes.
Yes, so it passed. Now we're on to number 9. And now we're talking about the e-poll books.
Can I just ask a question on the e-poll book?
Yes.
Because Minnehaha County did not use these in the 2014 election, is that something that we should be addressing? I thought we were kind of addressing the issues that happened from the 2014 election.
Yeah?
Go ahead, Julie.
What the committee kind of talked about, Kia, is that we would have the first part of the report address the actual charge of the committee, and then we would have additional recommendations in the latter part of the report that did not fit within those, and that we would go through and motion on each recommendation and then determine where it fits into the report at a later, after we're done improving them, or motioning on all of them.
Oh, okay, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Now, I had submitted a suggestion for replacement wording for this one, and then definitely moving it to a separate section of the report. I think the committee should have gotten that by email, but I'd like to read that if I could.
Go ahead.
The committee believes that the use of e-poll books at large precincts could allow precinct workers to more easily look up voter information and direct voters to the correct precinct, significantly reducing the number of calls to the auditor's office on election day. However, Chief Civil State's Attorney Kirsten Kapperman recommends that e-poll books be used at all precincts or none due to equal protection concerns. Providing e-poll books at all precincts would require a very large expenditure of the county's Help America Vote Act funds. So it's not, I couched it not in terms of a recommendation, but more of an observation.
And Kia, didn't Secretary Krebs come out that we can't use HAVA funds for e-poll books because anymore?
That was on the local election?
Counties?
He can.
Well, let's let Kia.
The
Go ahead,
county
Kia.
auditors- Sorry. The county auditors can still submit for reimbursement expenses from their county HAVA funds.
But the state
I
can't.
know there is language put in the new state plan that was passed last administration that sets up a HAVA grant, but they did not establish the board or the parameters of that grant, so we can't say whether that other HAVA grant could be used for e-poll books
At the state level. Is that right?
at the state.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
So counties can use them.
Counties can use their HAVA funds that they have to pay for their e-poll books, but for, continued use year after year, they may not have any more county funds in their county fund to do that. And so we don't know what the parameters are going to be of this special HAVA grant that is put into the state plan for the previous administration. The cost of these e-poll books is very expensive. So that hasn't been determined yet.
Well, to start discussion, I would move that the wording I suggested be used in place of number 9.
I would second that.
And if I can just follow up and then note that it's not a recommendation anymore, we'll end up moving it
To the
when
end.
we reorganize everything.
Can you read that back to her?
Be easier if I just gave it to you. It's that paragraph. Because I'm kind of, in a way, I'm disappointed at Mr. Kapperman's opinion, but I have to respect it. I have thought for years that using e-poll books at the larger precincts might be helpful. I mean, I don't know if you still do it, but we used to, at some of the large precincts, in addition to the poll books, give them an extra list of, like, the voters from an area that likely might come to the wrong precinct, to cut down on the number of calls by having that extra resource available. It appears to me, from his opinion, that perhaps we were not correct in doing that either.
Well, I have put out, and it's not a poll book per se, but and I've also allocated, let's take Memorial, for instance.
That's one of them.
I would put an extra person, there's 2 precincts out there, but I'd give an extra person, and they would be out in the hallway with the poll book from Church of the Gate, Discovery, Memorial, and I forget, it seems to me there was one more, and then if people were out there in line, they would go along and look them up while they were in line and direct them into the right line or the right location before they got there.
Right, and I just saw the e-poll books as an enhancement of that, and now I'm concerned that, based on Kirsten's opinion, maybe we weren't even correct doing that, which it would be very unfortunate. Yeah, Brandon was another place.
Yes,
Were you-
Brandon would be one.
Yeah,
Marie Carr to a lesser extent because they're smaller, but I do have two of them out there, two precincts out there.
IPC is another one.
The IPC's got three of them down there, you bet.
Of course, that's just one attorney's opinion.
Hey, that's very true.
I mean, I can ask our attorney, and you may or may not get a different opinion, and I don't know how you settle that issue.
Well, I don't either, but
You
Kirsten
have to
Kapmeyer
abide by
may
what
be-
yours says.
And in all due respect, Julie, Kirsten Kapmeyer may be a attorney, but he's my attorney. And I
Yeah.
think that if
That's what I mean.
push comes to shove, he's got to be happy.
He'd be
that-
the one that would defend you.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You have to go by what your state's attorney says unless there's a state statute or somebody higher up, and it's not my attorney, but if mine said something different, I can do something different until one of us is taken to court, so it's decided.
I agree. Well, you know, I guess it would be my intention to, as if I'm doing the paper poll books, to still stay with that formula that in the larger precincts that's working. Because I thought the issue was based on e-poll books. But this is, because what I'm actually putting out there for that person that stands in line is not a true poll book. It is like a resource directory for those. It combines several other precincts into that. So like Sue said, I might be in gray area, but it seems to be a service that the voters like. And we've been doing it for a number of years here. Sue did it,
Long
I
time.
did it. And after a
We've
while-
done it for years.
After a while, I think that
Maybe if they're not
practice-
really the precinct board.
He's providing the staff, though.
Yeah.
At what point does repeated, you know, doing this over and over again become a process? I mean, over what a statute might be, you know.
Well, that gets us into the later recommendation for a procedures manual, doesn't it?
Well, I hate to see bad law, you know, override common sense in an election, but you know, I suppose we have to work those things out as we come along. So.
You got it. Let's see, I think I made that motion and it was seconded,
second it,
right?
yeah.
Tell us when you're done.
He's done.
Vote then, Bruce.
Okay. We'll call the vote.
Danielson,
Yes?
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Roust,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
We'll move on to number 10.
Bruce, this was your issue. Maybe you
Yes.
can explain it to us.
In the work that I did trying to study the voting patterns and the situations with the data, I ended up finding out that in the situation with the e-poll book being used for the city election, there was all of this data that was not saved to say that these people actually voted absentee. I couldn't find it in the actual log that's kept of the e-poll books. So when they were running the voting centers, there was the 13 voting centers, and I was missing several thousand votes in the final auditable totals. And I couldn't find those, so I went back to the vote history log that had been sent to me, and there were all of these people who voted, but it didn't say how they voted, where they voted, or any way to audit that process. And so I put this in here because as somebody who does audits, I couldn't trace this process. And I really feel strongly that the e-poll book should be used for equally for the actual voting centers or precincts, and to be able to do the same thing in the auditor's office when they're doing absentee balloting. So that all the data is consistent all the way across, and there isn't any room for errors.
Before the elections, I know that you keep the absentee information in total vote. The absentees are processed through total vote. It's really a requirement that they be processed through total vote, because that's where your information is, that's where you can mark them as having voted. Do you then transfer that information into the e-poll books on or before Election Day?
It was transferred into the e-poll books
Yeah.
because we wanted to be able to show that if someone voted absentee, obviously they couldn't come to the polls, to the vote centers and vote in person. So I'm not sure. I think probably the SOS office did it for us because we were leasing their books, but it was downloaded.
It was downloaded,
Yep.
but the problem is, it wasn't put into the same table as the rest of the election, so
I
there was
don't
no
know.
way to audit the rest of the election.
I don't understand what you're meaning by tables,
Well, okay, we're out on a SQL server with the data, and there's tables for the election that signify.
This is after Election Day.
This is, yes, when they're bringing all the data together out of all of the e-poll books, during the day, we can know that voter ID 12 voted here, and they can't vote over here. Well,
Yep.
in the end,
And the
there
absentees
isn't.
were the same.
No,
The
they weren't on.
Are you sure of that?
Yes, they gave me the entire table.
Are you sure that on Election Day, that information was not?
Well,
I
it may have stated that they voted, but
Yeah.
it wasn't saved in the same form. And so when those of us who do audits look at this type of data, and we find that we have to go and triangulate data from this table over to this table to figure out what happened over here, we can't do a clean audit. And so what I'm asking is that we have the same format for all of the elections. So next time we have a school board election or city election, or even a general election, and we're using poll books, e-poll books, or the paper poll books, all of that information should be saved consistently, so there isn't any room for errors.
Well, if the absentees have been added in to the e-poll books, so it indicates whether or not the person has voted already,
That's the
Then they
function.
need to save that data in the same form as being used in the e-poll book, or however it's being
and
saved.
the reason you need this information is?
Just to be able to audit.
What do you mean by audit? What are
We
you
need to be
looking
able
for?
to, well, that's just it. Historically, when we're doing audits, we have to go
We?
out.
We.
People who do the kind of work I do, data mining, doing audits, being able to follow transactions through.
What information are you trying to find? Who voted?
Who voted,
That's in total
where they
vote.
voted.
If it's absentee, they voted through my office.
But I
through the mail or
don't, but it said they may have voted on, let's say, March 22nd, but it shows they actually voted on April 8th.
Not if you look on total vote. Total
When they
vote
sent
shows
me,
clearly.
when they sent me the table, and I specifically
Who
asked
sent you?
the Secretary of State's
Okay.
office,
Yeah, see,
I asked for it broken out, and they couldn't give it to me broken out. So that's the one thing I wanted to make sure, that it is saved consistently. If
It
you
is
are
in total
collecting this
vote.
data in the e-poll book, and you have these tables showing the 13 voting centers voted this way, and then we have this block of votes that are missing, I want to be able to know, as an auditor, where this vote moved from.
I don't know that that's a function of e-poll books.
No.
It's a function of how the vote is put into the table.
Well,
Not the vote, but the
The voters.
voter is put into
For,
the history.
for one thing, they shouldn't be the same coming back from the e-poll book, because we put that information back into total vote, and those voters that have voted when we put the information into the e-poll book, it can't repost them. It has to be in a different table, Because if it reposts them, then every single person that had voted prior to loading the information onto the e-poll book is going to show up as having 2 votes. That's what we don't want. So they cannot be in the
Well, that-
same table.
This is why
Yeah.
I specifically put in here that if the election is run using e-poll books, then they should have a computer in the auditor's office dealing with just as if they had walked into the polling center.
But I
That's-
think you would get the same result, because whether they use them, e-poll books at the time they vote absentee, or they upload them when they're all done prior to election day, you're gonna get the same information as you would as if they use the machine at the
When-
actual
And total
voting
vote-
absentee.
We need to be able to allow it to be put into total vote because it produces different
It's-
things than the e-poll
Oh,
book.
it's still, all of this is eventually moved or
No,
copied
I'm-
and put up into.
I am saying
Total
total,
vote.
when you
No,
load a
it starts
voter,
in total vote.
it starts in total
Absentees
vote.
start in total vote.
And total vote, the process that you use in total vote to vote someone at the counter is not the same as voting someone in a precinct. It prints you labels, it prints you a label for in-office voting, it prints you 2 labels for mailing, 3 if you have that additional envelope. It immediately posts it, it uploads it to total vote so that you can get accurate reports for the candidates and the campaigns that request the absentee balloting information. An e-poll book is not an absentee ballot retention program. It is
can't do
simply
it.
to show people,
It's to check them in, just
to
like.
check them in. That's all the function is. So with that, I would recommend that we strike number 10.
Well, the rest of that question goes back to ensuring the integrity of the process. Now, I understand all the rest of the absentee balloting process and the labels and all these processes. But when you have, I've specifically asked for the vote history, and they couldn't tell me in that process, at least in the tables they gave me, who voted absentee.
That comes out of total
That's
vote.
a-
To
Yeah.
answer your question, because the election history portion that's required for them to enter, the county to enter into their voter file, is just to identify what that election was that they voted. So we know the last election day they voted. So when we go through the list maintenance process required by NVRA, they know the last time that voter voted, was it within the last 4 years or last 8 years. We do not have them identify whether they voted on election day, by absentee by mail, or absentee in person. That's not a requirement.
Okay, but do you keep that information at all on any table?
I think you can.
That if we got into a recount situation or a challenge of any kind, that you would have that information?
No.
So when you have the 13 vote center totals and we're missing number 14, and there becomes a question in a contentious election, how,
That would be probably something the county auditor may have, but not the Secretary of State's office.
What question would there be in a contentious election?
well, I'm just putting the option out there. I'm asking because I have seen because of the information I got, the totals from all the vote centers broken down by, vote center, and I was trying to balance this information, and so I wanted to be able to go back as somebody who does this type of work and say, I have this gap, and I want to see why I have this gap.
The absentee information, in a contentious election, the absentee information is available in the auditor's office. They have lists of how many people voted from each precinct. They would have totals. On election night, there was, totals were indicated by vote center, and the absentees were considered one of the vote centers.
And not to mention, we would have the actual ballots if we needed them for a recount.
Ballots,
Yes.
envelopes, all
The
that.
poll book
Everything.
is only used to check them in and register that they voted. It is for nothing else, and to balance at the end of the evening. And in addition to that, we cannot designate what an e-poll book, how it's programmed. We don't manufacture them, so we can't control that. But I didn't see any types of those issues when we were using the e-poll books in our last election on a test basis. And I don't want the duplicate work. You're trying to make an e-poll book a secondary total vote system, and that's against the total reason we went to one voter registration system. Before, we had 66 other total voter registrations, and absentees were maintained totally in different ways. This is one control place. That's why we wanted it.
And so what I was trying to maybe say in this, now that we've talked about the absentee process and the labels and so on, then you go down into the next level, and if all I'm saying is, since the auditor's office downstairs was number 14, if that information couldn't have been put into that as a vote center on that same table with vote center, so that we can have that available electronically, like you've done with all the rest. It's not adding any votes to anything. It's all it's putting in is the data onto that same table to say this is the rest of the election. If you're saving this much of the election this way, all of it should be saved equally.
Again, you're trying to tell the e-poll book vendors
No,
how they make.
this is something that's done when the data is uploaded into Total Vote and to make sure that your table is complete.
We
I'm
don't.
not, if not a poll book down there, and you already have all the programming available in the auditor's office to do all these other functions, I'm just saying that same information can be then just saved on the e-poll book tables or voting center tables, and it wouldn't actually cost anything to do this, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
wouldn't change anything, because it's a systemic issue once it's put in. It's a programming issue, just like all of the other, taking the data off of this computer and putting it up on the SQL Server table.
You're suggesting it's a programming change required in total vote that would carry it over to an outside software? I'm not getting why you...
From the state, I received the voting center totals electronically. I got the,
Bruce? I
yes.
just want to interrupt you. I think you got that from the vendor, not from the Secretary of State.
I haven't been in contact with the vendor. I could go back at some point and tell you how I got it. I don't have it here with me, but
I think Brandon Campania produced that report. Our office isn't having anything to do with the e-poll book.
okay.
And I think if you go back and look at the email, it would have been something that either Brandon Campia from be forwarded to me to provide to you.
All right.
Our office did not produce that for you.
Okay, so Brandon Campia, as the outside vendor, is the keeper of this voters' information?
Julie, am I correct that, or on the e-poll books, or Lori, that for the election history, to know that those voters voted at the vote center, that election history, there's a file that has to be uploaded into the county file, just to show that they voted?
Just to show that they voted.
That's all.
It doesn't show,
Right.
it doesn't show where they voted.
That's correct, and all we need for federal law and state law, Bruce, is to know the election that person voted in. We don't specify whether it was absentee or in person.
Well, and Kia, on a secondary note, I don't believe Brandon Campia or any vendor is allowed to give out that information.
No, the only thing we did is because during one of the meetings, that's the one thing that Bruce requested, so that he can do this comparison from the file from the county auditor's history file, on a total vote, and some e-poll book thing. And so our office would not recommend that any of the auditors who use e-poll books make changes for this extra field that Bruce wants, because it's not required from us or from the federal government.
No.
Do we
Okay.
have a motion on the table?
I made a motion to
You made a
strike, but
suggestion, or.
Okay.
I made a motion to
Motion?
strike 10, but I don't think I got a second.
I would second that. May I make one more comment?
Yes.
We just about talked this to death.
Yes.
One concern I have is that I'm not convinced that you have been given adequate information, that you've been given complete information. When I see the comments you're making, I just wonder if there was some communication gap somewhere and that information is really there and you just weren't given it. The absentee voters are all in the e-poll book before Election Day. That's our guard, that nobody
Yes.
votes twice. And the fact that you're not seeing them in the file you got raises the question in my mind of, were you given the right information? And the fact that the Secretary of State's office, number one, has had a change, a major change in staffing and leadership a couple of months ago, and has new people who have not worked with Total Vote, leads me to wonder if there was a problem getting you what you wanted accurately.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing this up, because this was one of my hopes with the new Secretary of State and the office staff, that over the last 18 months that I have been involved with all of this data, it has been very inconsistent. And so I put this in partially from my frustration of not being able to get the data that we needed to get consistently. And this was multiple times asking for the data, and I understand what the staff change and everything out there, this would happen. But starting in August of 2012 and moving forward, I have been having these same issues. And so I wanted to bring all of this up and make sure that we got this area covered. And so I understand, and I understand the federal law and the state law issues and so on. And go ahead, Bob.
I have a question for Auditor Pearson. When you have a municipal election for Rapid City, you oversee that, is that correct?
Yes,
Do you upload the results of that to the Secretary of State's office?
yes.
Okay.
We're just starting since Total Vote. Prior to
Okay.
that, there wasn't any way we could do it because we didn't have a single system to set it up with. But yes, we will from this election on.
Well, in Sioux Falls, I understand that this was the first time that we had uploaded the results to the Secretary of State for a municipal election. Is that correct, Sue?
2014, was that the first time?
I couldn't attest to the other years.
I think it was something fairly new.
And so, if we're doing that at Sioux Falls, should not all the other municipalities be doing the same thing? And I don't see that happening out there at this time.
I think that was one additional feature that Total Vote allowed. Darlene maybe has better memory than.
I think it's because we set the ballots up. If you don't set the ballot up through Total Vote, then you can't upload it to the Secretary of State's
'Cause
website.
yeah, if it's set up correctly, you can, with ERM, you can upload that to the state. Now, the city election last year, I guess I wasn't told that we were uploading, so nothing was tested, so I believe someone from the Secretary of State's office actually entered those results as we were pulling them off the
She did,
copier.
yeah. That's right. Yep, she did.
But you can do that through Total Vote if you set the ballot up. But if we don't set the ballot up, we don't have contracts with all of our school districts or all of our little towns. And so then all we can do is post their elections, voting history after the fact.
I believe you have
We do have a motion and second, yep.
to strike number 10.
Yes.
Okay. Danielson,
Yes.
Kearns, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Number 11, the procedure manual questions.
I'd like this committee to know that the process for a Minnehaha County Procedures Manual covering all aspects of elections and having a separate section for the DS 850 is underway.
Statewide.
Well,
Lots
we
of
got
little
a little-
emails
something
going around
going
about
on.
those DS 850s.
And I think it's a very good idea. And we're looking for input from, a lot of auditors.
I would move that we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor complete a procedure manual for elections, period.
Is this what you're looking for, replace develop, complete?
And take out the rest of that sentence.
Yeah.
For elections.
For elections. That gives him all the leeway, and
Yeah.
we're looking at other states, and
Yeah. Now, okay. Now, under that, I had made a suggestion that we kind of group some of these things, and in this draft, they ended up under here. But one of them, the fold here, C under there, is also number 5 up above.
Yeah.
Strike that one.
I didn't think those really were part of a procedure manual.
No.
I thought that those could be noted as, recommendations from the vendor
As a separate item and list those together.
as a separate
Yep.
item. So I don't think that A through E, now, E. E is that whole testing question.
I was just making my
You were
motion
just
just on the procedure manual, so we can address
skipping the A, B, C, D?
E, yes,
E.
at this
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Vote on that
Because I would
alone.
agree
Okay.
that they need to be handled outside of a procedure manual.
Okay, so you've got, your motion is 11, right down to before.
Yep, we recommend the
The
Minnehaha
list.
County Auditor complete a procedure manual for elections.
And
Period.
did you get a second?
Second.
You Call the roll.
Danielson,
Yes?
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes,
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
So now you're looking individually at,
Yes.
what we do with those.
Well, I think A through D were kind of procedure things. They're recommendations that came, I think, from the vendor out of our discussions. I think Bob has already said he plans to implement A through D. And I had made a suggestion, where did I put it?
Well, we've already addressed C.
Yeah, but we haven't grouped it. This was my suggestion was
Here you go.
grouping.
Here you go, Sue, right
Why
here.
did I miss? Yeah,
Ones 5, 6, 7, 11.
okay, yeah, the way I had it was vendor ES&S has made the following recommendations which Auditor Litz plans to incorporate. So it's not our recommendations, it's just we're noting that he's already planning to make these changes.
so pull that down as a totally.
Separate
Yes.
number.
Yeah,
like
mhm.
A new number, yeah, a new item.
Including that
The fold here
folding
lines,
thing that we already,
the folding thing, yeah.
Which was
it was,
number
Up at one of the first
5.
ones.
so if we,
5.
Do you want me to pull these out, cut and paste to the back of the report with an additional
well,
heading?
I think we're gonna have a comment section after we get through the recommendations.
For now, I will highlight these in a different color that we know.
Yeah, we're moving them, yeah.
I
Which would
mean-
also include number 5.
I had
Yes.
emailed this
Fine.
wording to everybody. It's in the packet that Darlene copied for us today at the bottom of the
Yep.
first page of my comments. And so there's a little bit of change, but
Since we had
Go ahead.
addressed 5 as a separate recommendation, do we want to take it out of yours?
I think we want to put it in here.
Instead.
We only had it there because it was showing
There.
there, and we were going to reorganize stuff later.
Okay.
I think 5, as we redesigned it, should be in place of
Your,
C.
yes.
See, yeah.
What was 5 should go in there as the third recommendation
Third.
anyway.
So if you can go up and copy 5 from above.
And put it in place of C. Yeah, because that was just kind of duplication.
Yep.
And then A, if we have that wording that starts it off saying these are recommendations from the vendor, there's some wording can be taken out of A, but I think
Yeah.
we want to say purchase and use green ink ballot stamps, and you've already got that process going, right, Bob?
Pardon me?
The green ballot stamps, you're already in the process of getting them.
What happened was, before the election, we got word from Davidson County officials that the ink stamps were bleeding through the new ballots. They're a little bit thinner, so we ordered all new self-inking red stamps. And then later on, we
Oops.
found out, I found out it's green. And so what I did was I called Sioux Falls Rubber Stamp, and I can, somewhere between $500 and $900 to convert those ones over. And the reason I say there's a big gap in there is I've got a bunch of bottles of red ink at $2.60 a bottle that haven't been opened. They'll do a straight across trade. I don't know that number right now. But right now, it stands between $500 and $900 to convert the $2,000 worth that I've already purchased, so.
So can we go back down to that A, B, C, D, E section? Take a look at it. Now, Kia made the comment that B perhaps would need an administrative rule change. I think we.
B?
Yeah, she did.
B, she said because administrative rule specifies in great detail the layout of ballots. I think it's still okay to have this just the way it is. Consider ordering ballot stock. Part of your consideration would be reviewing with Kia, is there any rule change needed as we move forward with that? I know you said you're already doing it or planning to do it.
Yeah, what we plan on doing is not using a watermark or a box, but definitely where we want them to put the ballot stamp on the front of the ballot, we're going to leave plenty of space, which was our issue in November. We didn't leave them half a column. We made our ballot stamps very small, so we don't need. So our defining the place is just going to make sure that we leave enough space for them to easily place the new green ballot stamp.
And I think the way you're doing it would not require any change.
Any change whatsoever.
But if we were to add a box that said ballot stamp here,
Or a
that's the
watermark.
kind of.
Yes, it would.
That's the kind of thing that would require probably a rule change. So if we leave it that you consider it, then you can work out the details.
Yes, Kia?
And
When you look at 5020601, it does say that the general election ballot must be white and must be in the following form as applicable. And it shows a picture of an optical scan ballot, and it just shows a ballot stamp in the top of the third column. And Julie, what we should do
I don't think
when
so.
we have our spring rules meeting with Board of Elections is maybe just take that out and put something in there that the county auditor will place it out, have the ballot stamp placed where most applicable to their election.
Yes, because I think it's just going to become more and more important that all auditors, as they process into using the more sophisticated scanning machines, that the ballot stamp does make a difference where it's placed. So I
Right.
think that would be
We'll just make a proposal to the Board of Elections to just remove ballot stamp off of that top of that third column and just say a note on there that it has to be on the ballot and a location determined by the county auditor.
yeah.
Okay. So I think we've covered,
So am I reflecting what you want in this point, and the things in blue are going to stay in place, or they're going to move down to a section that's,
D, I have, I don't recall any discussion before this group that the precincts were inadequately supplied. So I don't know where
No.
that comment about the office should provide sufficient pens to polling places came from, I think it's inappropriate. I would suggest we take out that sentence.
Agree.
The whole point or just this highlighted?
That, no, the rest of it, the blue pens is important. No, I'm sorry, the blue pens leave in,
Just
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
just like that.
It's the rest.
I don't know where that came from.
There was,
Actually, I think Bob said people walked off with their black pens.
and you had to resupply.
Maybe where the stray comment came.
But they
we
still
send it.
Yes.
provided.
Yeah,
Yes.
they sent
Yes.
tons of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't remember any discussion of where that came from, but
That was just an
Yeah.
anecdote that people liked the pens and.
Yes, they pocketed them. Yeah.
and then we get to E.
Now, I brought that up after a conversation I had with an election official that called me from San Antonio. And I brought it up in one of the meetings about what they do in their office so that they have continuity and of staff training, and they also end up with, if there's any succession issues with the staff and to make sure the equipment's running, that they hold periodic through the year. In off times, they run the machines, you run some test ballots through to make sure that the settings are correct and that the machines are running functionally. And it was a recommendation that they built, and he thought that it was something that we could be discussing here with what we're doing.
You talked to a he in San Antonio?
There was one of the assistant,
I was going to say,
Election-
because the election
there's a woman
administrator is
there
a
that
woman.
runs the office, and I can't remember all the names right now, I've got it written down at home, but she assigns
Yeah.
different staff members to go and do these functions and also monitor things like we're doing right here. And so
This-
there was something that was suggested, and I just wanted to bring it up, and I know I'd mentioned it in one of the previous meetings, and
It does no good.
okay?
You're not even testing the ballots that will be counted in this election or the programming for this election. If you, do it 6 months before the election, you don't have the programming, you don't have the ballots, there's no way you can check. There is testing that is required by law
Okay.
before the election, and
To a
obviously-
predetermined vote count.
Yeah, and obviously more testing is done than that. I assume that as soon as you get ballots and programming, you test it. So you test it before the public vote, at the public vote, and on election
Test it
night.
to make sure
That's correct.
ERM's running right.
I spent hours down there testing those machines. If we had a change to the programming, I had run all 72 precincts through, making sure everything came out. We hand tabulate the test decks, so we know this is what I hand tabulated, this is what it's counting. If we make any changes, I start all over and start testing again.
Okay.
And run all ballots through all precincts.
And that test is only meant to test that the programming is done correctly to count the ballots. Running extra tests will not make them fail-proof on election night, regardless what you do. They're pieces of machines. They go down, they quit. They've never counted inaccurately, though.
And I'd like, outside of what I spoke of training myself, Lori, Bev, and Kim, to run those machines, become very proficient. We have the same teams run the same machines all the time, and they're paired up, and we also have a cheat sheet on the 850s that we can refer to. But after you do it a couple hundred times on election night, it tends to be ingrained in your mind. Now, I understand turnover, but I think we've got the overlap and the enough people down there that are going to know how to run those machines to provide training for anybody that knew it.
Where you've clarified by talking about Lori and the different, Bev and your new staff member, you're bringing more people into the process, so I guess
That's correct.
and you're going to be training these people, and so that should cover it.
With the new machines, yeah, that gives us, some extra folks, and then I could beg them if I gotta get to counting the absentee ballots on election day, or processing the election day ballots, absentees, so.
I'm good with that.
And the comment you just made regarding the fact that you hand count and test during the period, that would have been important for a couple of the folks that testified that said they want to see a hand count. But you just pointed out that you hand counted against the machine, which is kind of the test I
test
think that
Yes.
they would want.
Yeah, and there'd be different amounts of ballots
Yeah.
in the test decks made out differently, so we have a
And-
lot of different scenarios that come up.
To add to that, the state law or administrative rule, I don't know which, states the types of marks and how you have to mark your test deck for a predetermined outcome so that you know. And you can either do it in-house or we pay C Change to do that for us.
We didn't view the operation of the machines by our staff members as being an issue here. It seemed, that part of it seemed to go pretty good.
So do we need a motion to delete that one?
Strike
To
E.
strike E.
So moved?
Second.
Second,
And we'll call the roll.
Danielson,
Yes?
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Roused,
Yes.
Warren.
yes.
We'll move on to number 12.
You've moved that
We've,
to, and be included in the recommendations with the auditor,
Well, except
didn't we?
this,
Except the
this
absentee.
has the absentee. I think this is important to leave in, because we've heard that there's discussion that maybe this area is gonna be reconfigured and he won't have all this space. And this space is barely adequate as it is for processing absentees.
And as part of the conversation, the building committee came up that we go to this room next door and have a screen TV or the possibility of windows looking through here, which we're losing a lot of space for the absentee opening. It's something that's got to be addressed before the next one.
I'm sorry, I thought we included that
No.
before, but you're right, we didn't.
What if we ended it, though, after it says to include processing absentee ballots, receiving supplies and ballots, and counting ballots, and then leave out the part about the multiple resolution teams, public viewing, and storage of all, because we did cover that.
We kind of covered storage, so.
Storage, yeah.
Do we cover public viewing?
no, haven't yet. Because, in fact, in the discussion a little bit ago, we talked about having rope across to keep people from being able to wander through these areas, and that still interferes with our public viewing.
How about if you changed it, so, counting ballots with space for multiple resolution teams and public viewing?
There we go.
Period.
Yep.
Period, okay.
And take,
And get
and
rid of-
storage
Take the
out.
rest of that
Yep.
The rest of
section.
it out.
The short-term basis and
Yeah, that,
Yep.
that whole
Yep.
part. Because we've talked about the the
storage we
multipurpose
gave.
room on a permanent basis.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Is that
Can
your
you
motion?
reread that, Sue, how you want that changed?
Okay, it is number 12 on the draft, and
Yeah.
most of the first sentence keep the same, but we come to counting ballots with space for multiple resolution teams and public viewing, period. And then
Okay.
take off the last two sentences and take off the end of that sentence that's about storage.
Okay. Thank you.
Was that your motion, Steve?
Yeah, that's my motion.
I'll second.
Danielson,
yes,
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Roused,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
and we'll move on to 13.
This is one that I really struggle with.
Yes, and I'm going to say right up front, I do not support 13 at all.
Nor do I.
I agree.
I know we have heard frustrations, and we heard some more today about musical polling places. And number one, part of it is caused by the fact that the Sioux Falls city and school district elections have been run in these last few years using vote centers. Now, we could make a recommendation that they don't do that they go back to precincts, but that's, I know that voters like the way they do it.
Yeah, we do.
I also know vote centers are totally impractical for county general
Right.
elections. So I don't know what the solution is, but I don't believe we should say, we think the solution is to combine all these elections with the primary.
No, and I wrote some language for that, just to say, which was not incorporated in here, that we understand that the City of Sioux Falls and Sioux Falls School District will continue to utilize vote centers for their elections and realize the difficulty this would entail for the primary and general elections, primarily due to geographical challenges within Minnehaha and Lincoln counties.
Can I add a comment on here?
Yes.
I thought the purpose of this committee was to make recommendations to the county auditor and the county commissioners,
Yeah.
not to the school, Sioux Falls, City of Sioux Falls, or the Secretary of State's office.
I think we probably will take the liberty, if we feel it real crucial, of making a suggestion to another board, but you're very right. We don't have any authority here to say anything to the school district and city, other than to know we've got difficulties, we know we've got difficulties, and we haven't come up with a solution.
Yeah, and I think that should be maybe just put in like the comment section that you were talking about too, at a different section of the report.
And
But-
13 should be taken out altogether, and 14 should be changed into this one that I had come up with.
Should we maybe just preface it that we heard public comment, we realize that the way elections are held by the three governments produces confusion to the voters on where to vote, because that's the issue, and that we don't have a resolve. It's not within our purvey to resolve. That way we have addressed what they've concerned, we recognize it's a concern, but we don't know how to fix it, and we can't order the boards to do it. Unless we want to just say, do extra public service announcements or posting, or recommend that the three administrators in charge of those elections try to do some additional education. But it's all going to take money.
I think you're right that in the comment section, it's important to recognize that that's a frustration we heard.
But that there's really nothing we can do, because we're talking to three different elected boards.
I'm good with moving it to comments.
Can you,
Your suggestion, Julie?
or Lori?
She had it fairly well written, I thought.
Well, I would make, do you want me just to read my, like 13, I would just like to, I would make a motion to delete 13 altogether.
Second. Let's just
So
get
let's
that
vote on
Let's
that
get
taken.
it
one.
out of there.
Let's take that, care of that one.
So,
So we need a vote on
a
13.
vote on,
Danielson,
yes?
Aaron's, Ellison.
Yes.
Lundstedt.
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes,
And then I would make a motion in place of number 14 that it would state, we understand that the City of Sioux Falls and Sioux Falls School District will continue to utilize vote centers for their elections and realize the difficulty this would entail for the primary and general elections, primarily due to geographical challenges within Minnehaha and Lincoln counties.
I would suggest we add a sentence right before that section, which is what Julie said. We heard testimony.
And recognize the confusion of voters.
Her sentence kind of covers that.
And I can't remember what I said.
We heard testimony regarding voter confusion
There
about
we go.
changing polling places, changing voting locations,
There we go.
voting locations. And then that flows
then-
right into
Right into my
what she said,
statement.
what you said. And that would be moved to the comments section. It's not a recommendation.
Yeah.
And I'm on the train of thought, so just help finish that off with me. We understand the City of Sioux Falls School District to utilize vote centers.
For their elections, and realize the difficulty this would entail for the primary and general elections.
Entail.
EN.
Entail for the primary and general elections. Primarily due to geographical challenges
And election turnout.
and election turnout. Good.
Yeah, because that's the big thing.
Yeah,
With.
there we go.
Is managing that turnout when you don't know where the voters are gonna go to vote.
Within Minnehaha and Lincoln counties, because we need to also think about Lincoln County.
Either that or don't specify.
Or don't
It's-
specify,
it-
just
I
stop
would
it at
not
voter
put.
turnout? Okay,
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
stop it there then.
primary and
Okay.
general are county elections, and we don't
Okay,
need to
period.
say which
Okay.
elections.
good. And then Sue had a sentence.
This is what I'm adding right here then.
And then delete everything before that in 14. So basically replacing 14
Yep.
with this wording.
But we also wanted to add that sentence at the beginning, or
think
is that
he-
just going to be?
he added
Oh,
it.
he added it, okay.
Her testimony about voter
I
confusion.
can't quite, that red is hard to see.
Yeah, we heard testimony about voter confusion.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
okay.
And then,
And then it
into
goes
yours.
into it, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, that's my motion.
Do we
Second.
have a second?
Second.
Danielson?
Yes.
Aaron's? Ellison?
Yes.
Hogsted?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Rouse?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
The number 15.
On 15, my comment on that would be that we remove, if, depending on the rest of this, but definitely remove with the City of Sioux Falls and school districts, because we do not, we're not involved in the total vote database
That's-
entering or anything.
You're not involved in that, but what we heard, what I thought this comment was, is it's the total vote that produces your poll book, or your master registration list.
Okay.
Does your precinct workers, or have you heard that the school precinct workers cannot tell what ballot to give them?
No.
Then I think we
No.
strike the whole thing, because that's all it
We know
has to do with.
exactly what ballot to give them.
Because you're the only,
Right.
you and the school, not Bob, but you and the school
Mm-hmm.
are the only ones that use a combined list. And if your precinct people are not having a problem with me
No.
calling it 1-1 and Lincoln County calling it RV5, if they're not having the issue, then,
The reason that I put that in was going back to the data work that I did. And the school wards, and the city precincts, depending on which county the voter happens to rest, are named differently. And as a programmer, again, and having had the discussion with the e-poll book people, they talked about that issue of if it's in the same jurisdiction, it should be named the same. So that they don't miss the inclusion of that group of voters. And if-
Do they, when they program it though, they do not use the precinct name to
And-
pull people in, do they?
no,
Y-
there's
in-
another
in-
number.
Now, according to the information that I got from the Secretary of State's office on the last cut that I had, and I put those examples in the packet of attachments, it showed where, in fact, we could just even take this information right here, one of these sheets, the actual AS400 record. You'll see in the way the AS400 used to have it, it shows a designation on the top one here of school district, and it shows 495. Down below, in the way total vote is showing it, they're calling it school ward, Sioux Falls School District 49-5. And so in that particular situation, they're not using the number anymore, which it would make a lot more sense as a programmer. You would program to the number as it used to be. Now they have it as a name. And when you went into the city wards, if you look above on the AS400, they're showing it as a 5.
Are you saying that Lincoln County has a different format for the school
They have
ward
it named
field?
differently on the city ward, and I just took those two as examples because they were easy to see on
But we're
here.
not seeing a Lincoln County one. Your issue
No,
was
I have that.
Lincoln
I
County.
have, if you give me a moment, I will.
I suspect that these fields were standardized in total vote.
But they aren't.
Well, by standardized, the field is standardized.
The school ward, can you freeform put that, I mean, school ward, that's standardized statewide. Everybody's in a school district.
I think
No.
too, I think maybe comparing to a 2012 formatted list versus a 2014 formatted list in two different programs could be an issue too. I mean, you're not comparing the same thing.
It sounds like what you're suggesting, Bruce, is that we go back to 495 instead of Sioux Falls School District 49-5.
Programmatically, that would be better than any kind of a free-form name.
I think that's an issue for total vote. It would be an issue at a statewide level for the programmers of total vote. I don't believe that's something that Minnehaha County, I mean,
I don't think Minnehaha, I don't
do you
think,
enter that, or do you just
is
enter?
it on a pick list?
No, it's not on a pick list. Every county names their precinct, but you also take each precinct and tell it what districts it votes. But if the information gets to the e-poll book correctly for Sioux Falls City and Sioux Falls school districts, so they can vote people and give them the proper ballot, I don't see an issue. It is not tied to the name that we, as the county auditors, input. And obviously it works because they're not hearing
Yeah, and I
the
was trying
issue.
to find it here.
So it obviously isn't printed on anything that you see,
No.
and you are the overlapping districts. And it doesn't create a problem when we vote overlapping school districts in Pennington, or if we even produce the City of Box Elders election, nor does it in our overlap school districts.
This is the one that you have.
This is, and I apologize, I wish we had the overhead here so we could show this, but I just have this one sheet, and I thought it was in the pack, and I couldn't find it, but this is out of my collection of material. I had the city ward field in Lincoln County says Sioux Falls Ward 2. And in Minnehaha County, it's called Sioux Falls Ward -2. Now, when we are programming a situation, say we're going to go to this ward versus this ward, we would have to know both of those definitions. In other words, we would have to know exactly how that was spelled out in order to pull the information. Whereas in the old AS400 system, it was listed as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and it was very easy to program.
No, it wasn't, because Lincoln and Minnehaha County had totally different
Very
conventions.
Okay, and this is what I'm
This
asking,
is
now
an
that we're in
improvement.
total vote, that if the city is crossing, what's that?
Am I, are you,
Oh,
this is in the reference packet. that you-
yeah, and I thought I had this sheet with it, and I just went through and I couldn't find it, so I apologize for it not being in that
So
group.
Julie, you give a name to each ward? Like, you have wards and counties.
We call them 1-1. and we've got them down when we converted to total vote, you go in and you say, whatever your precinct name is, say XY, XYZ. And then you go into total vote and you tell total vote what elections, what districts XYZ votes in. And we have nowhere on anything that we get out of total vote does it say XYZ anywhere. There are numbers that are used by ES&S and the ballot down to the precincts. They are different numbers than the number sequence that total votes gives them. They're set mostly up by style because they want to support the vote centers.
I would suggest, this sounds like we don't know if there is an issue when people try to program, say, e-poll books. Because we know Total Vote works for getting your registration lists,
Yep.
you know, getting people to the right place, assuming the street master is correct.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something that we might request that the Secretary of State's office review for consistency of data. As I said, I know before we went to total vote, there was a huge disconnect between Minnehaha and Lincoln counties. That the numbers were actually backwards. In the state system, what was the ward in Minnehaha County, you had to look at the precinct number, the precinct field in Lincoln County, which made it a nightmare to program those.
And this is exactly where I guess I'm heading with this, is if the city crosses or the jurisdiction crosses the county line, as a programmer, so I don't miss something, I would really like to be able to have consistency. And in the example I hear, and I can pass this down to everybody, here's the way Lincoln County has it.
But is that the field that you would use?
According to
To
what
poll.
Dusty Van Balen told me when we were talking, he's from.
Yeah.
He's no longer with the Secretary
No,
of
but
State's office?
he's dealing with the e-poll books. So I'm just saying, from my looking at it as a programmer, I wanted to see consistency across the counties for the same jurisdiction. I mean, the same
Then
area.
this is not something to talk to Minnehaha and Lincoln County about.
That would
This
be
is-
Secretary of
This is
State.
Secretary of State.
And-
Lincoln and Union counties have the city of Beersford.
Yep.
with
We
the
have
county boundary
overlaps.
running right down the middle of the street. I don't think it's appropriate for us to say anything on this telling Lincoln and Minnehaha they should be
Consistent.
But if that
normalizing
could be
data.
something brought up in the discussion with the Secretary of State's office, Kia.
It's not even
Yeah,
in
I mean,
this,
I mean, we can certainly recommend it, and we'll visit with them, but again, the county auditors are in charge of their voter file.
Well, and that's why I brought the two county auditors into it, because of that very.
Lincoln County is not, are they present there at the meeting?
Not at the
We
moment.
lost them,
No.
yeah.
Marlene was here, but she left.
well, and I don't know, I could be wrong, but again, it is an elected official's voter file. Our drive, our charge is to have an accurate voter registration list to provide to those jurisdictions having elections. We can do that, and we did it even using poll books. So I don't want to go in and mess with total vote. So I don't know if the Secretary of State can go in there and mandate well, I suppose they can. You can't mandate what we call them, and there's a reason,
But if a city.
only in the minds of the county auditor that has to deal with the precincts, the reasoning why you label anything, any precinct, anything. And there's only so much
Yeah.
data space in there. So I don't know if it's even under the purview of the Secretary of State's office. Because I don't see that anybody has a problem with it, including getting the information from Total Vote into an e-poll book. Because those jurisdictions that use those combined lists aren't saying they have a problem, and we have not.
Well, everybody I've brought this up to so far in the discussions I've had, they didn't even know that this problem existed. Something that I found, and I am just asking if it can be looked at to prevent problems in the future.
Well, from the Secretary of State's position, we won't be telling a county auditor how to name their precinct.
No, but if within a jurisdiction such as the City of Sioux Falls, to have,
Jurisdictions have to work together.
right, and just working together.
I mean, right, so it's not something that our office would direct two counties to do. I mean, I think like Julie said, you guys, the county auditors name their precincts. There's a reason why they name them what they are. And I know if there's jurisdictions that cross over between two counties, I guess I don't know how well the auditors work when they're doing that. Like in Union County, I don't know if they work together when they name them or not. So. I guess I don't know what to do for that recommendation.
If it's moved to the comments to that data inconsistencies were found and,
No?
or
No,
not,
because
Data inconsistencies.
you have told us, based on the information you were provided, that you saw some inconsistencies. One, as I commented earlier, I'm not sure that you were given all the right
And-
information, complete information.
Well, and aside from that, because one county calls it Sioux Falls Phase 2, and one calls it Sioux Falls Base Dash 2, is not an inconsistency. It is
I
consistent.
agree with Julie and Sue there.
Yeah, it is consistent that in Minnehaha County, it's SF2, in Union County, or Lincoln, excuse me, it's SS-2. There's not an inconsistency, it's not wrong,
It's Ward 2.
it's Ward 2. It's however they decide inside and I don't know, I'm not a programmer, but inside total vote, I can call the Sioux Falls City and say, I want a list, or the Secretary of State and say, I want a list of Sioux Falls Ward 2, and I can get it. And it includes both. So I don't see that there's anything inconsistent or wrong with the data to do what the voter registration program is supposed to be for, which is not for the ease of a campaign to produce a list. It just isn't. That's not our charge. It's nice that we can produce one for you, but you can certainly go in and do it by hand. I mean, it's just not our charge to make it easier for programmers to pull out data that they need when we are producing what we are charged with by statute. And there's so much more tied into how you name and label a precinct, and we are still preparing the lists accurately, because we have not heard that we are not.
I would move that we delete number 15.
I would second.
That's why we have roll call votes, they don't all have to be unanimous.
what's that?
The votes don't all have to be unanimous.
Move to delete 15.
No,
Danielson?
Yeah, there is, okay,
Danielson?
no.
sorry.
Stearns? Ellison?
Aye.
Hogsted?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Rouse?
Yes,
Warren?
Yes.
Okay, number 16.
I was,
Now we're getting into Kia's comments that,
and Deb's that I thought
Deb's,
were really
yes.
interesting.
yeah, about the HAVA, yeah.
You felt that these recommendations were inconsistent with the Help America Vote Act.
Yes, if the Secretary of State is in fact the
State
the
election
state
officer.
election officer who has to have a, what's the verbiage here?
You had it in
Uniform,
here.
non-discriminatory manner, single uniform official, centralized, interactive, computerized statewide voter registration.
Mm-hmm.
So my question would be whether, and I've yet to meet an elected official who wants anybody stepping on their authority if the Secretary of State's office sees it as a potential conflict.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well. You're like going it.
Or you're kind of facing away
Oh.
from your,
I'm sorry, one of my comments was with regard to Section 303 of HAVA, that each state, acting through the chief state election official, shall implement in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner a single uniform official centralized interactive computerized statewide voter file registration list defined, maintained, and administered at the state level. If you feel the recommendations in this section were stepping on the Secretary's authority to go and do maintenance on the list, maintain the list, et cetera.
I'm sorry, it was just really hard to hear you. I don't know why, I'm not sure. Is there a question for me on that?
Yes.
Could you repeat that into the microphone for me? I couldn't hear that at all.
Okay, if you can find my comments too, I think it's on the second page of comments, under number 21.
but the basic, yeah, that's Deb speaking. But the basic comment is, Kia, do you believe that these requests, that the auditors give approval before changes are made to the voter file, do they conflict with HAVA, which states that the Secretary of State is the chief election official and holds the responsibility for that file?
We are the depository for that file, and what's required of us is for federal elections, we have to be able to capture that file on those dates so that they know exactly what that voter registration file looks like for those federal elections. In state law, the counties are in charge of their voter file.
I've not heard that, this is Julie Kia, I've not heard from a county auditor's standpoint that we've had issues with either a county auditor or the Secretary of State making, number one, a county auditor cannot make a change to total vote, and any total vote change is kind of a change is made kind of at the masses' request. So I don't know that we've ever had an issue certainly when you go through a new software program, you're going to be making changes until it's satisfied from the acceptance level to the programmers that you're contracted with, but it just seems like they're all unneeded from an auditor standpoint, because we certainly don't want to go back to having to do our federal report for the EAC by hand.
Right.
Which is the biggest drive we did to making total vote, as well as to fit the National Voter Registration Act, that we have one central file.
Yeah.
And it be a live file.
We have to have one central file.
Yeah, but I've not heard from even the Secretary of old or new, or from county auditors, that there was any program changing that we weren't acknowledged of, that wasn't an improvement to the system. And I don't feel that, what are you going to do if we make a recommendation that there's 66 county auditors that give approval and you don't get 12? We can't even get all the county auditors to respond to some of our emails, let alone an approval to and if they don't like, we try and maintain and program total vote to the majority of the county auditors, and we, as a big county, certainly can't tell you what is needed in a small county or vice versa. So we've tried to make total vote accommodating to members or counties of all sizes. And yes, are some things a little bit more cumbersome? Yes, they are, but I wish I had my mainframe back, and they took that away from me.
I think where this was generated from was, Bruce Danielson and Bob Libb sent that email out to the county auditors, and at that last in-person meeting that I was at, Bruce handed out all of his data mining papers and a list of all these emails coming back from counties with problems. And I think what that was related to is when a new voter or an updated voter is being sent, like submitted by the county auditor, it goes through that Melissa data, who standardized the data, that comes back. And I think some of those county auditors weren't liking the address that was coming back. I think a big thing was on county's file. But I think too is, I agree, any programming changes that were ever done we always had a test group of county auditors in the past, and I think they did with total vote. And they actually would I'm assuming in the last 4 years, they let all the county auditors know if they were going to be making a program change.
Well, and you can override on a county's input, you can override anything that Melissa puts in.
Correct.
And we do use the override when it doesn't do what we want it to do. So you're never going to standardize anything any more than it already is. And you cannot force.
So I think I would move that we take out 16, 17, and 18. Let me look at 19. And 19, like you said, you guys can override on it if you don't like the address change.
I have an alternative that I had suggested that would replace 16 through 19. So, are you making a motion, Kia, that we take out 16 through 19?
Well, I just pulled out your comments. Let me look at those. Maybe we can amend them. But
I think it would be cleaner just to take them out and then talk about what we put in place. Either that or start with what we suggest replacing it with and then take them out.
okay, let's just walk through your comments too on your changes. I just pulled your sheet out. So.
Okay, I had two recommendations that my idea was they could replace 16 through 19. One is a request to the Secretary of State, because we really can't recommend anything or ask, or tell the Secretary of State, but I have it termed as we request that the South Dakota Secretary of State review the functioning of the total vote system. A substantial number of auditors have reported that the street master function is not working correctly and sometimes changes voter information entered by auditors, resulting in incorrect precinct legislative district assignments. That is based on the feedback that Bob gave us last meeting from other auditors, which I felt was very significant and seemed to give us a very consistent message that there are problems. And then my second, go ahead.
Can I comment on that real quick before
Yeah.
we move to the next one?
Mhm.
I think so, because how I understand is when auditors submitting a voter record, that the Melissa data information comes back, and on the screen, it will show them what Melissa data is going to change it to, and the county can override that. So if the county's not looking at that and just going through and just submitting them and not paying attention to maybe what's on the screen, I think that could be some of the problems. And another problem is, we're going to do a day training on street master and total vote in April, and I think maybe that will help a little bit too, because it's just going to be focused on those two pieces.
And yeah, I understand that, and really what you're doing is what I'm requesting here. I felt like there was a problem that had been identified that goes across many counties, and that it was worth noting. And it sounds like you're already working on the fix for it, but I still think it's worth noting, because that was pretty significant testimony that Bob presented to us.
Yeah, I agree, but I think we take them out as not recommendations, but
Yeah.
as comments. Yep.
Yeah, I definitely would put it in the comment section. The other one, my recommendation that would replace 16 through 19, and to me kind of consolidate them, is we recommend that whenever any changes are made to voter records by total vote, a report be provided to each auditor listing the before and after values for any fields which have been changed. Now, I'm not talking about when you enter a new voter and it comes up with, here's the standardized stuff. It's if there is any maintenance done at some point in the future that would come back. For instance, if Minnehaha County for some reason had to send their whole file into the state, again, upload their whole file into Total Vote, would that make any changes to any addresses that had previously been correct? That sounds like that's happened in the past. I don't know if that has been totally resolved, but we talked about having some sort of an audit list that would kind of be the cross-check to make sure nothing goes astray in the future. So it,
For that, yeah, especially like when we do redistricting and,
yes, that's,
that will be moving a lot of voters to different districts.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So my suggestion is that we replace 16 through 19 with this, because it covers the issue of informing the auditors when a change is being made.
I agree with that. That was my concern, was if there was some kind of an en masse
These are the
process
two I'm talking about, but
that was gonna
this
change a
is
lot of records.
the key one.
The auditor here would have to come back and fix all that again.
But just so you know, we don't change records.
Well, the Melissa system did somehow, and
Back up.
The Melissa data gives back to the county auditor a
It's up in
standard
the wrong order.
format for an address.
Just
Like
take it.
ST for
I think
street,
that's the one
so
without
that
the-
everything is consistent.
but it didn't,
It's
so-
this
there
one
was some
right here.
process that
This
was
one right
happening during the conversion, and then multiple attempts to fix it afterwards, that,
Yeah, and that's the thing too, that I don't think it's just the conversion process that was the issue. I think there's some auditors that weren't able to provide enough time to go back and review their complete voter file. So I think it's a combination. I don't think it's just one fault or another. I think it's a combination.
But it sounds like you're working to alleviate those problems, get to the source of them, and, you know, and fix them with training, primarily with
Yes.
training.
So is number 20 on the report too kind of what you're talking about, or is that a little different?
No, I don't know what that is. I believe that was Bruce's.
that's another one of mine.
And that's something different. Mine, it was suggested to replace 16 through 19.
Okay, and I'm good with that, and I think if we do your recommendation of having like some type of audit report that goes back to the county on those field changes, I think we don't need number 20 because it would allow the auditor to see any changes anyway.
Unless,
There was another reason here,
You-
we'll get into number 20 separate from
I think there's,
From-
yeah.
the correction of these others, because 20 is something else that I use on a regular basis in the work I do, so
So I would make a motion that we remove recommendations numbered 16 through 19 and replace them with the wording that Robert has just added, which is just one.
Second.
We recommend that whenever any changes are made to voter records by total voter report be provided to each auditor listing the before and after values for any fields which have been changed.
And second,
we'll let Robert catch up with us, and then we'll do the,
All right. Danielson,
yes.
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogshead,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes?
Warren.
yes.
Okay, that was 16 through 19.
Yes.
Okay.
What I was asking for in number 20 was, I was asking Heather one day if there was a way to look at more than one record at a time on her screen. And my assumption with the question I asked her was, no, there is no spreadsheet look at total vote. You know, in other words, seeing across maybe 10 or 20 at a time, that you could scroll down through her county voters so she could see if the street master or the streets or the families or, you know, different ways that you can sort it as you do a spreadsheet. And normally you can do this very simple in a table view so that she could see what changes there might have been or inconsistencies in a neighborhood. And so instead of going one view at a time, when you don't realize there's a problem. In the work I do, I audit things looking at massive flows of data across on a table, and I can see inconsistencies and changes.
Julie, can you search, for instance, on an address or a street name, and then you get a list?
There's reports to do, especially to check addresses. I don't know how to pull them personally, but I know there are. As well as you can take the file and put it into an Excel spreadsheet and do your sorting that way.
And you can do searching on most any field, can't you?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
one of our biggest requests, because you not only have to be able to search by street, but we can produce reports, and
I just wanted to make sure that
Yep.
functionality was in there.
and you can always take total vote to an Excel spreadsheet and do it any way you want. And
Okay.
that's the information that we format when we give our lists out to voters, or to campaigns, is we put it in an Excel spreadsheet, very easily to be
So I
sorted.
think that's more of a thing that we'll focus on in that training, so that auditors are aware
Yeah.
that is an option.
I'm good with that. Do we just strike this?
Is that a motion?
Yes.
It
I'll second.
It renumbered it because I
Yeah.
did a new one.
So you moved, I second, that we strike what
Yes.
is now number 21.
Danielson,
Yes.
Aaron's, Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Rouse,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
I believe we're done with our list of recommendations. Does anybody need to take a break for a few minutes? This is kind of got.
That wouldn't be a bad
Well, why
idea.
don't we do that for
That's
10
good.
minutes and,
Is it possible, Robert, for you to print out that list of recommendations now so we can see it all at once?
Sure. Do you want understrike,
I'd
overline and understrike? or
I'd
you want a
prefer
clean copy?
just the final version.
that would be much easier.
I would too.
I will do that. Give me 5 minutes. I'll clean it up. I'll get a new hard copy to each of you.
Yeah, just the recommendations section, because now we want to organize them.
And before you do take a break, there were two things you mentioned, Sue, in this, from this page of comments. I think a second one was a comment.
Yeah, it was the one right above the one you, on my paper. It's the one right above, I believe, that request to the Secretary of State.
Yes.
That would be more in the comments section. That's what we need to go back and kind of see. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go get a snack.
I knew this was going to take a long time, but I think we have accomplished a great deal.
Oh, I love it.
And if we can get this finished today, and I think we're close.
I think so.
We need to try to find Joel.
He was going to be in court.
Okay, in the afternoon?
All day?
I'll check again. Oops, I missed, somebody
Find
sent
out
him
he's on
comment.
Fox News.
What's that?
Did you find out he's on Fox News?
Thank you for all of your time on the.
Oh, he did try to call and I missed it. How are you feeling about it?
amazing you don't need a mainframe as a keyboard. Oh, yeah. Well, here's a question. Would you ever volunteer again? Sure. Oh, to be chairman? Sure. Oh, okay. I thought perhaps. We got the topics. I thought you perhaps you were soured for life on the.
No, this is very fascinating. I wanted to make sure topics were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So as long as topics were covered.
I'm gonna switch it. It was still going.
It was, all right.
Yep.
And if topics are covered.
All of our itty bitty little towns in the county,
But it was.
some of them aren't there no more.
I think that's a neat idea, though.
Palisades isn't there,
Bob, I'm thinking of,
and that Van Clair,
which is when
it's
you
just
do
a
those
grain elevator now, and it's all, there's not much there.
make sure
Boog,
it's not like a
that's not there anymore.
Actually, these
And
people,
then down here, let's see, what else?
the Constitution can't
Uh,
solve it.
I think that's a neat idea. We should do that in our county.
Ellis is still there, but it's unincorporated. East Sioux Falls is not there anymore. Amenja is not there anymore. And then we don't have Moorfield. Renner is still unincorporated. So yeah, these are all the incorporated or unincorporated towns that we had in the.
We can just,
One, I think, I had it in the absentee category, because.
Yes.
We
okay,
would,
so that's 3. And, all right, we're started again? Okay. What we've decided to do as a group was to break this down into the 3 categories that we were charged with as a committee. Number 1 would be questions related to the timeliness of the vote tabulation. 2 would be the performance of the new vote counting machines. And 3 is the process of delivering absentee ballots to voters, ensuring absentee voters receive the correct ballots for their legislative districts. So with those 3 charges that we were given, we're going to go down through the recommendations and number them for our categories, so that when we put the final report together, they are broken down according to those 3 topics. And so we're going to start with the first one. And do we need to vote? And
I don't think we need to
so
vote on
Unless
it.
we'll
we
just
agree.
come to an agreement as to what section, because we've already agreed they all need to be somewhere. So on the first one, we recommend the Minnehaha County Auditor allocate sufficient staff time. I'm only going to read the first sentence unless everybody else needs it.
I don't think you even need to read that. We're all
Okay, so
looking at
just
this
number
document,
1,
And it's on screen.
the consensus was to move that to 3.
Absentees, yeah,
And number 2,
tabulation,
and
which is 1.
One.
okay. Number 3,
See, I'm not sure where that one fits.
No.
That is,
well, doesn't that fit more with 1 as the timeliness,
Is there any
to
reason why
give
we
the
can't put
space?
it in 2?
What's that?
Is there any reason why we can't put it in 2?
because it's so much bigger. We're suggesting that be a permanent space designation, which is, it kind of, I had it originally, I think, under vote tabulation.
So it fits more there than the other 2. Nothing to do with the other 2.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with the performance of, I could see putting it under 1.
One.
I'm going to put it under 1. Number 4,
That goes under 1.
1.
You need another tabulator to go faster.
number 5,
Now, that was going to be moved down to
Oh, yeah.
10C.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be in there.
okay.
That's easy.
And it is under there, so,
Yep,
Yes,
it's
yeah.
there. It got copied but not removed.
all right. So our current number 6, is
That's vote
That's 1.
tabulation.
that's number 1. Number 7,
Same thing.
it goes to 1. Number 8, goes to 1?
3.
Oh, wait.
No, timeliness
Oh,
of vote
timeliness. I guess
tabulation.
it's 1,
That's
yeah.
1.
Number 9,
That's comment.
Yep.
all right.
We struck 10.
No,
No,
no, we have it in there, but we didn't take out the A, B, C, D
It's-
and put it
we're
in
gonna-
another place.
right, we're gonna,
And I
Oh,
apologize. 'cause
My old 10 is gone, so now 11 is 10, okay.
And I am behind you here.
10 itself, the discussion came about when we were talking about absentee ballots, but it's,
ties to 2. It ties to
I
1.
thought we deleted 10.
well, what we're calling 10 is we recommend the county auditor complete a procedure manual for elections.
I think it
Okay,
moved
that's fine.
around.
Okay, took out 10, sorry.
It's the old 15.
Yeah,
Just looking at mine, if my 10 was the equal thing, but now you guys, when you redid them on your screen, it took 10 out.
Yes, I'm sorry, Kia.
Okay.
So, under one of those 3 charges, it would make the timeliness probably work better, but the performance of the new vote counting machines,
the reason this came up in the first place was talking about absentee ballots.
okay?
There wasn't
That was
anything written,
specifically
yeah.
the discussion that there needed to be a procedure manual for absentees. It's more wide-ranging than that, but if we had to put it under one of the 3 categories,
Then probably, yeah, that's where it started.
Okay, so move it to 3,
either that or,
have it listed under each one almost.
well, no, I was gonna suggest we have things that address those specific things, but, then these items are something about would be beneficial for the entire election process or something like that. And that one about the multipurpose room, number 3.
Yeah,
Our-
put under general,
our-
maybe add a 4,
Yeah, a 4 would be,
Yeah.
general election process.
yeah.
Maybe not put general, because then they're
Just
gonna think
election
it's
process.
processes.
Election process.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then, that would be 4, and then that earlier one,
The number 3 about the multipurpose room,
yep, 3.
So we
that
change
should
that
be
to
under,
4.
to
under,
4.
yeah, under election processes. Election process.
And then 10.
Did you
And
follow
10.
that, Kia?
Yeah, the procedure manual's one under number 4.
Yes, and then the one from above, the number 3 from above, we recommend on the multipurpose room, we'll move up to number 4,
Yeah, election process.
Okay. thank you.
Category 4.
category 4. Then now we're gonna be in A, and we'll renumber these accordingly, but currently, we're gonna be on the item number A.
But those 4 together,
ABC.
they
Those
all,
4
they
together.
all fit under category 2,
Okay,
performance of the scanners.
And I do apologize, but I'm gonna
That's-
have to back up here. 'Cause
Okay.
I was emailing Kia, and so I've got my categories here, but I did not get them divided up here. So this,
okay,
top.
1 is in 3.
You-
Oh, you're gonna move them? Okay,
okay,
Well, if you've got them written down and you wanna keep moving through, then I can do that.
yeah,
That's fine.
I think we're all keeping track of these, so
yeah,
we'll compare the list when we're all done and keep things moving. Okay, so now we've got all the A through D that are lettered, we've moved to 2.
2.
and those can be numbered as individual recommendations too.
Yep.
So,
Okay. And now we're up to,
11 really falls under that election process.
I think, yep,
all right,
and take out recommendations for county commission as a heading, don't you think?
Yeah.
you're right,
Yep.
Yeah.
we don't need that any longer. And so then we're at number 12,
And that's a comment, but we don't need that heading.
we can get rid of the heading and comment. Okay. And then, we're at number 13, Kia. We'll get rid of the heading on recommendations for Secretary of State.
What do we want to say?
I now have Joel on the line, so. Hello, Joel? Well, good. I will bring you up to speed quickly. We've done the recommendations, and we're right now categorizing the recommendations under the three
I think
levels
just
of the
leave it as a
charge
comment.
that
Sue?
that
12?
we've been
Yeah.
assigned to.
Yeah, the recommendation for the Secretary of State.
And
It doesn't
wondered
really
if you
fit under
were
the
available,
others.
I'd put you on
Right.
speakerphone
So a comment.
and put you underneath my microphone so you could hear what we're doing. But we can try that.
I think that 13.
Okay. All right. Yes.
13 could go under
3,
3.
that's where it created.
Mm-hmm. And we don't have to say recommendations
near
for the
Alcester, you might
Secretary
have a
of State.
same
We're
Take
just
that
going
out.
to
similar
say
issue.
that's a recommendation.
So
And
I'll
we'll
put you
kinda
on
be up to-
speakerphone so you can hear where we're at. And we're going to be moving in, as soon as we're done with this section, then we're going to be moving into recommendations. All right. Can you hear us, Joel?
Yep, I can hear you, Bruce.
I will try and hold the phone up here so we can hear. So we'll move forward. We're on number 13,
We decided that it would go in section 3.
section 3.
Yeah, because that's where it could create, is going to create the problem.
All right. So we've moved on, we're done now with the categorizing under the 4 categories.
I had made some comments, and I don't know if you feel it would be appropriate to include it in comments, but about the causes for voters receiving incorrect ballots.
I think that should go under 3.
Where do you have that?
I had it in the document that I sent out. I had it right under that section.
It's just,
That.
okay.
And what I had there, because what have we ended up with in that section 3 now? 3.
Sue is referring to ensuring absentee voters receive correct ballots for their legislative districts. Begin with a statement something like this: there are 2 primary causes for voters receiving incorrect ballots. 1, the total vote system indicates an incorrect legislative district for the voter. And 2, an audit or staff member pulls a wrong ballot when waiting on a customer or preparing a mail-out ballot. And then she has some comments below this to alleviate cause 1.
And that's where I went into which recommendations fall in which category. I don't know that that's as useful now. And maybe that's not necessary, but
We've addressed them, we've just allowed them in.
yeah, we have them in a couple different one of the reasons I put that there was there seemed to be some confusion early on. We had some public testimony, and I have heard it before kind of implied that people were getting wrong ballots because the ballots had been misprinted.
Yeah.
And that
That is
has
not.
not been the case. The 2
No.
causes are total vote tells you the wrong district, and so you give them the wrong district ballot, or you accidentally pull a wrong ballot and give them a wrong ballot.
Which happens in office.
And neither one was it the case that the ballot was incorrect, the ballot itself was incorrect.
No.
And I think maybe it's been covered and is not necessary to have in there anymore. I don't have a problem with taking it out, because we've organized everything well now, I think.
And we've hit all the main points, the procedure manual, the things with total vote,
Yeah, I guess I
the street
think it's
master.
I
Yeah.
think it's probably good as is. Okay, so we organized things.
So this statement that you just asked about, we'll skip it.
I think I would skip it probably.
All right. So should we move on to definitions, or should we do the discussion and background?
Let's talk
My
about that.
next is summary of committee meetings. And mine?
That's pretty much, they just summarize what was on the agenda, I think. And referred us to,
That's on, so then we're on discussion and background of recommendations?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's where Deb has.
On my original comments, I just suggested that we rely on minutes and the video as opposed to
Can you be
having.
closer to the mic?
Sorry.
I would agree.
Okay.
Start over though.
On my original group of comments, I suggested that we rely on minutes and since we also have video, instead of making, and that, at that point, staff go through and have to pull out from minutes comments and expand on them.
Yeah.
Or sort of a narrative. I just don't like the idea of a narrative in general.
Since so much of this narrative is pulled right out of minutes,
Yep.
I think the minutes speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I concur with Deb's suggestion.
I do too.
I do too.
And on page 9 and 10, where it summarizes what was discussed each meeting, that kind of would direct people to the right place, I think. Do we want a motion? If you want a motion, I would make a motion that we remove the section discussion and background of recommendations.
Second.
Which goes to page
20.
10 through 12.
Danielson,
Yes.
Aaron's,
Joel?
Yes.
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
Hogsted,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
So,
So I'm gonna go here.
all the way down to page,
20.
the top part of page 20.
You had suggested yesterday, Bruce, some other things that needed definition.
Yes, and I threw in what ballot style meant. As soon as Robert is caught up with us here. Now we're down to definitions.
Okay?
And I quickly added those in when we were talking on the phone yesterday, Sue,
No.
or the day before.
Did you, however, are the suggestions I gave for definitions, are they incorporated in here?
I think I tried to
Can you
put-
go up to the beginning of them? Auto mark? Device. Mark paper ballots, not cast. They're not
Okay.
casting a vote
Mark,
on an
exactly.
auto
Yeah, I
mark.
wanted to add the word marking before device, but I like it that way better. To mark.
So I'm,
Okay. E-poll book, also, you do not have in the changes I suggested.
No,
On the e-poll book. Precinct
Do you have
registration
those?
list, I've got them all here, and they were in the document we got earlier today.
It says also known as an electronic poll book, a tablet or laptop computer containing registration information which allows election officials to review and/or process information during an election but does not actually count votes. In South Dakota, the voter still votes on paper ballot.
And I think Bruce had that sentence in about the paper ballot because based on discussions you've had with folks, you wanted to make it absolutely clear that we're not voting
Right.
on the poll book.
Right.
And so I think that's a valuable thing.
So-
Do you have my,
I do.
okay. And you found mine too. Okay.
Yes.
No, e-poll book. You're correcting e-poll book. The one right above it. Yeah.
You know, there's a definition in statute for e-poll book and for poll book in Title 12.1.3.
I did look at those definitions too, Kia, as I was doing this. I was aiming them more toward a non-professional person, your average voter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where did you say the definitions were?
12.1.3.
12.1.3?
Yeah, 12.1.3, there's e-poll book is defined, and so is poll book.
See, and poll book, what you have, what is poll book is not what you were putting in there. What you were talking about was really a registration list. Because the poll list is the list of all the people who actually showed up and voted in numerical order. The registration list has the voters eligible to vote at that precinct.
Okay, that's
all
the
of them
technical, yes.
in alphabetical order. And so that's,
I hadn't heard it referred to as the registration list.
that really, yeah, because that,
Could,
I
that-
saw when you,
The e-poll book combines them both.
yeah, it does. Okay, so in place of poll book, I had precinct registration list. Or I renamed it.
can you put, also known as, because we,
You don't want it to say poll book.
Okay. No,
Because
that's
that's,
All right.
that is a different thing.
That's
That
where
is
they
the list of-
sign.
That's where they sign, and it's the list of the people who came and voted that day. It's two very different,
okay,
it's your cross-check.
okay,
In a regular election, you have a registration list, and then people come in and they sign
right,
the poll book or poll list, and then you have confirmation of how many people were there to match against the number of ballots.
okay.
So, but it is a cross-check, so they're two different
I
things.
just wanted to make sure that that was brought in, so that's, if you, under e-poll book, could you state that it's an electronic precinct registration list and
Yeah,
then it ties the two back
yes,
together?
electronic precinct voter registration list, because it's
There
not
we go.
necessarily precinct.
That's
But
right.
you're right. Electronic voter registration list and poll book.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it's defined in that statute,
Mm-hmm,
e-poll book.
yeah,
That makes me feel a lot better. That way it
Yes.
answers that question that
That's
people
good.
keep asking.
and then precinct, that one looks good. And then precinct registration list, I changed that to and maybe this is just wordsmithing, a paper book, because I was contrasting it with the e-poll books. A paper book listing the voters eligible to vote at a particular precinct. Okay,
That's, I wanted to make sure the paper was in there, so it was,
yeah, at a particular precinct. Ballot style.
we've had all these conversations about ballot styles.
How would
It's all
we-
through this process, and it was confusing.
It's a unique and individual
ballot designation based on the voters.
Now, is it based on a precinct, or is it based on an area?
Doesn't- no.
Or based on their voter registration, they get a certain style?
It is based on, it's a combination of all the races that a voter may vote on.
Okay.
And so, like in Minnehaha County, for a general election, there are 8 ballot styles because there are 8 legislative districts. In Pennington County, in a primary, there may be
50.
50 because you have 50 different unique combinations of races.
Yes.
But yeah,
Unique combination of races.
Yep, that's it.
That's the word, yep.
A unique combination of races.
Specific
Specific to each
to each.
voter.
I have the EAC definition.
Oh, good, what is
great.
it?
A concrete presentation of a particular ballot configuration. Discussion, a given ballot configuration may be realized by multiple ballot styles which may differ in the language used, the ordering of contests and content choices. I can bring it down
I think
to you.
we're heading in the right direction with ours.
Unique combination of,
The concrete presentation of a particular configuration.
how
can tell an
about,
attorney
how
about
about
that.
if we stop after a unique combination of races and then give example? For a Minnehaha County general election, there are 8 ballot styles, 1 for each legislative district.
Because it's going to make total difference on,
Yeah, for, and we could give them,
We'll give you
Uh,
many examples.
for a Minnehaha County general election, there are 8 ballot styles, 1 for each legislative district. To me, it's so much, this is one where it's easier to give an example than to define it.
Definitely.
One for each legislative district.
and we can add in there, or as stated by the EAC.
Is that okay? That's just what I think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, ballot style is so difficult to explain until you've had to actually determine what they are.
Or we could say, or for a City of Sioux Falls and Sioux Falls School District election.
There's one.
Well, no, there's 9
Are you by district? Oh,
We have
yeah.
9 in one election and 6 in another.
people inside the city, people outside the city,
in the
people
school
in and out of
district, and out of the school, and yeah.
I think that's probably good.
Yeah.
Now, precinct-based voting, what did I have down there? I had
Do I
voter-
need to read that to everybody as to where we're headed? Joel or Kia?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, thank you.
For precinct-based voting, I put voters are required to vote at a specific polling place based on their precinct registration.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep.
And it is not the case that you only have one ballot style at a precinct.
No.
You can have many. For a primary, you'd have Democrat, Republican.
Oh, for primary, sure,
Independent.
yep.
For a general, you may have a precinct that's in more than one legislative district. For combined elections, like for a combined city election, even when we had precincts, you had people inside and outside the school district.
Yeah.
So there are lots of cases where you have more than one ballot
Style.
style.
Definitely.
Who's required to vote is specific. Based on their precinct registration. I didn't know if it should say precinct registration, voter registration address,
How about just voter registration?
based on their voter registration.
Yeah.
That I
just
think
leave it
would be
at that.
better
Yeah.
than what I had.
Because everybody can relate to voter registration.
Can you put the, you made one statement there about it could be multiple styles in a precinct?
I don't think they need that.
Okay,
I don't think that adds.
all right.
Super precinct elections, take out the word in. That one I kind of rewrote entirely. Because as it was written in here was not really accurate. And I gave a little history. An experiment used in past Sioux Falls City School elections where precincts were consolidated into a much smaller number of locations. 3 to 5 regular precincts were combined into one super precinct with one precinct registration list. Voters were still required to vote at a specific polling place. And I don't remember that 3 to 5 is exactly accurate, but it was sort of in that neighborhood. Because I know they went from like 50 to 20 super precincts, something like that. That
I'm good with the change that you're recommending.
yeah, that is a more accurate description than what was in there.
Because what we really need to say is that they're still required to vote at a
Yeah,
specific
that was the
polling
key
place.
thing.
Yeah.
They were sent to a specific polling place, and then 2 months later, they went to the primary and went back to that place, and it was the wrong place.
If you're gonna use the word based voting, like precinct-based voting, then wouldn't you wanna use super precinct-based elections and vote center-based elections?
Where are we using the word based?
It's
In
on
in
the third.
Oh,
All
precinct-based
precinct-based
election.
voting.
So if it's,
Precinct-based.
we either need to add it to super precincts, or I think take it out.
Take it out.
Should we just say precinct elections or precinct
Voting,
voting?
and then super precinct voting, and then vote centers.
I like elections better, because
If
that's
you
the
add-
term that's been used here.
Okay.
Super precinct election. I think precinct elections.
Precinct
Well-
selection?
Yeah, precinct elections, super precinct elections, and vote center elections. And that would tie the
Yep.
three together very succinctly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that does sound better. Vote centers, plural, right? Because you have more than one.
Yeah. I would say vote center elections when he gets to that point. Didn't you have a few more things you wanted added in there? I was thinking that you had 3 or 4, but I can't find that.
When we got
email.
done talking, I kind of reorganized my thoughts and
Oh,
just
okay.
threw those were the keys, and if there was anything, under precinct-based voting, if you could change that to
Precinct elections?
precinct elections.
So how do you describe the IPC?
Huh?
IPC,
It's not a super precinct, but it's multiple precincts in a single place.
you could say under precinct elections that a voting location may serve more than one precinct
Okay.
with multiple precinct boards and ballot boxes. That's probably worth adding in there.
That sounds like a good subheader, just like precinct elections.
Adding to precinct elections, what did we say? There may be multiple precincts voting at one location. Precincts. Voting at one location, period. In this case, there will be multiple election boards and ballot boxes. Because I know, you're right, people do get confused. Ballot boxes, not ballots, just ballot boxes. And there's a second C in precincts after the N. Yeah, because there's several places. Memorial, you still have multiples, right? Precinct elections, super precinct elections, and then
The last one
Vote
was
center elections.
Because
You
I'm
had-
trying to get more of our definitions onto one page. If I got too small, let me know.
Can you still see it, Julie? You
It's
were
a
having
little
issues.
better to have it bigger.
And
I
then
think.
under vote center elections.
Elections, vote center elections.
And then you had different,
I had voters may vote at any vote center on election day without regard to precinct voter registration, I should say. Voter registration. The vote center must have a supply of every ballot style and enough ballots on hand for distributions to all voters in the jurisdiction.
Make that change.
Yeah, on what I had, instead of without regard to precinct registration, make it without regard to voter registration. Didn't know there was a phone up here.
I've heard it several times.
Was that all the definitions?
I think
no,
so.
we're taking the
I
word
had
based
suggested
out.
a few, but I don't know if they're really needed.
I think we did.
Oh,
we
were
take-
you
removed the
one
word
that
based.
suggested?
I had suggested a few.
I was,
What else would you?
Well, I had suggested ES&S, we referenced.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah,
What's
that's right.
ES&S?
ES&S and
And I put
BPRO.
Melissa because
Oh, yes.
honestly, I did not know that was the name of that system. I had no idea what you were
Oh.
talking about the first day when you said Melissa. I don't know if we need to define street master,
Oh, that would be good.
and what
'Cause
about
that's
total vote?
That's a good, that
Yep.
would be good.
So all of those.
You're the one who
jumped out
made
at
that. I
me.
knew there was more
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
suggestions.
I
So total vote, Melissa, and what was the other one?
Street master and ES&S.
Does ES&S, is their real name still Election Systems and Software? Or do they just go by ES&S?
I still see it in print. The,
Election Systems and Software?
Yeah.
I think so, isn't it?
Yeah.
On their website, it's still
but that's all right. We can still put it in there. It's-
define what it is, at least
Yeah.
the vendor, use.
Vendor
for-
who provides,
Yeah.
The only certified tabulation equipment for the state of South Dakota.
That would be good.
voters, you got an extra E at the end.
And we need to take the word out, based.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Vote center elections. Take out the word based. Vote, and change it to voter registration at the end of that first sentence instead of precinct registration.
Yes.
And one more definition, since we put it in our recommendations, HAVA,
Oh, yeah.
define what HAVA is. I'm just reading through the recommendations to see if there's anything else that jumps out at me.
yeah, I heard ES&S,
HAVA,
Melissa?
Melissa, street master, and total vote.
So they use Melissa now instead of, there was another program that had been mentioned for verifying.
NCOA is the National Change of Address File. That's really a different one. Melissa is an address standardization service.
Mhm.
Is that what you would call it?
Yes.
I think for NCOA though, we still use that for list maintenance.
Okay, then we should have it.
Well, we didn't really use,
It was,
NCOA doesn't show up in our report, Melissa does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just referring when we do the list maintenance process, I think when our office runs that first notification,
Mm-hmm,
I think we would need through NCOA.
yeah.
That wouldn't be really in reference to this report, I don't think.
Melissa, when I sent my other changes in, I had identified it from their website as an address management data quality software.
That sounds good.
Comes right off their website. An address management data quality software. And then,
it's a company. We should probably,
yeah, company,
ES&S is Election Systems and Software. Election Systems and Software. The company that provides the DS-850 scanners.
Is it election or elections?
Election. I think. Election systems and software. Yeah. You go into a dead zone?
Somebody else is trying to send.
No, I'd keep in the ES&S. Yeah, oh, I see what you're doing.
I'm just trying to,
Oh, sure, there you go.
Add in, after election systems and software, the vendor which provides the DS-850 ballot scanner? Ballot tabulator? Scanner?
Tabulator.
What do you call it?
They're called tabulators, but we've used scanner a
and
lot.
tabulator.
That's one change I went through and changed all the words scanner to tabulator, but it doesn't matter.
We
I
talk
guess.
about,
Use them both ways.
And they're actually capitalized DS.
yeah. HAVA is the Help America Vote Act of 2002. Yeah, if people want to know more about that, they can look it up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
at
there's
least
so
they'll
much
know.
to it.
Yeah, how do you start, yeah.
Yeah, there's a link to, on our website about HAVA.
Yeah.
The street master. Is that we didn't, I'm still confused how that is actually done systemically.
Could you say a table which assigns voters to precincts based on their street address? Would that be?
Or is it the street address that determines, or,
It's the street address that determines their precinct. Is there a better way to put that?
do you have a definition for street master, Kia?
I don't, I can go check real quick if Brandon Johnson is here and I can see if he has one.
All right.
I'll be right back.
I mean, that kind of describes the key function is
Yeah.
you give it an address and it tells you where the person votes.
Yep,
That's, so
that's all they need to know.
Yeah, just to,
Mhm.
so I see it.
Total vote is the statewide election management
Now,
system.
is street master a South Dakota name for, this is
It's-
their internal, it's not a nationwide program.
No.
This is just a name that was
It's a
from the Secretary of State's office. when
It's a
they-
This is what we've
component
always
of total
called it.
vote.
That's the other part of it, a component of total vote. That's all I
Though
need.
you probably
Election
used
registration,
election registration and management system.
I think on one of the other reports, I think the comments from the meeting where Brandon Campy was there, I think he defined street master as a statewide standard for entering streets. But
I think it's,
Brandon's not here.
yeah, it's important to have in there also that it's assigning voters to a precinct.
I think that's what the voters want to know.
That's, yeah, that's,
Yep.
because that's what the problems that we've discussed revolve around, is assigning voters to a wrong precinct.
Yep.
Registration
I agree.
and management system. Those are kind of cobbled together, but I don't think they're too bad.
No, they sound pretty good to me.
Alphabetize them.
Yeah. Now, this document still needs probably some cleanup, though I think we've done a lot of it. There are places where there were stray words in there and so on. And it also needs an executive summary.
Right.
I would suggest that we delegate those responsibilities to Robert. Now that the document has come together, I think he can come up with an executive summary that summarizes it. And then provide that to us for review. Does that seem reasonable?
Along with the 2 sets of minutes, and we can do it.
That's right, we have the 2 sets of minutes.
without another physical meeting, or?
What do you think? I'm about having another meeting to approve the final report.
I hope that won't be necessary, recognizing the people we have on this group who have made such a commitment to come to these meetings.
Right.
Yes.
Julie from clear across the state.
Yeah.
Can we just do a telephonic meeting?
A vote, or can we do an email meeting, or?
What is the rules for this side of it?
In this case, I think we can make these communications back and forth by email and can accomplish that and be just fine.
And just post it that
Yes.
we met and this was the vote by roll call or email, and do it that way.
By recorded email vote?
And then you'll notify us when it's going to be presented to the commission?
Absolutely.
And
Should we talk about how that will be done?
I was hoping to.
Bruce, I assume you'll be presenting the report as chairman?
I would assume so. I would like as many to be there as possible. And we had discussed first presenting the draft to the county auditor's office, the county auditor, and then in correlation with that, have the county auditor with us when we give the presentation to the county commission. And then from that point on, it's for publication to the Secretary of State and all interested parties, and we'll have it posted on the website. Yes, Ken, could,
If I'm not mistaken,
Come up to the,
if I'm not mistaken, when the report is presented to the commission, since it's the report of a committee, the commission can't take any official action on adopting any of those recommendations until at least, I believe, 1 week after the committee presents its report. I think that's how the process works. When, you know, a report of a committee that's been appointed by the commission is made to them, there's got to be that lag time between the presentation and an adoption of any of the recommendations contained within the report.
okay,
I'm
so,
pretty sure about that, so I'll have, but
can
I'll
they
clarify
accept it?
They may be able to accept the report, but
Yeah.
they can't do anything, I don't think, with the recommendations until after it's been first presented. People have a chance to look at it, then before they can come back and accept recommendations.
Well, there's really not a short-term recommendation
So-
that they need to do anyway.
I'm just simply saying, you
Yeah.
know, it's just a
Yeah.
procedural thing that we
Yeah.
have to do.
But I think if we could word it on the agenda that it's a
Sure.
review and accept,
So,
because most of the recommendations, any movement on those are going to come from Bob, except for funding, which would be budget discussions. So I think that time frame would not harbor us at all.
so at this point, I believe we are due to have an approval of to adopt our report as of it stands right now, or do we wait until that end? And
I want to wait till we reread it.
Wait till we
All right.
get it, the final version from Robert.
so we'll defer the adoption of it until we've had a chance to read the final draft and adopt it through an email vote process. And then I wanted to just move on to the next section, or do I need a motion for that?
I don't think so.
I think you're
All
fine.
right, and then I just wanted to see if there was any old business that we still needed to clear up. And if there was anything we've missed that would be new business. And I wanted to then call the meeting adjourned and thank everybody for everything they've put into this. I have learned a tremendous amount, and I'm very happy that we were all part of this process. I want to just say that the 7 people here on this committee, and with Robert's help, it's been a tremendous learning opportunity for all of us, and I'm just very happy that we were able to do this for the county and for hopefully the state of South Dakota. So, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you,
we're
because
adjourned.
you
for
did a
serving
ton of
as
work.
chair.